Welcome to the Selectmen's Meeting, Tuesday, April 26th, 2022. Please join the board in the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Mrs. Cavaco.
In accordance with Section 2475 and pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, this meeting will be conducted via remote means and in person. Members of the public who wish to watch the meeting may do so in the following manner. Tune in to PAC TV, Government Cable Access Channel Comcast 15 or Verizon Channel 47 and watch the meeting as aired live. Or watch the meeting live on PAC TV website at pactv.org. Members of the public who wish to participate in the meeting may do so in the following manner. In-person attendance, Plymouth Town Hall, 26 Court Street in the Great Hall. Remote participation, please go to the town website under the Select Board page and click on the Zoom webinar registration box.
Thank you. Before we get started, I'd just like to welcome Mr. Brad Brothers, the Town of Plymouth's News Assistant Town Manager. Welcome, Brad. And we have an award presentation. Roxanne?
Thank you, Select Board, for allowing me to take a little bit of time tonight. I'd like to invite Hannah Gleason up here with me, please. Just want to tell you a little bit about this amazing young lady.
Roxanne, is the mic on? The green light? Hit.
I'd like to tell you guys a little bit about this amazing young lady. She single-handedly went out and canvassed around the town of Plymouth to the various businesses and collected over $7,500 for our Veterans Gift Account. And our Veterans Gift Account allows us to help veterans that need a hand up at any particular time in their life. Not only did she have the time to do that, but she's a full-time student at Suffolk University. She just did a Teen Ties clothing drive. She's a committee member for that as well. Hands for Hearts for the homeless volunteers. She works part-time. She's Miss Montana Collegiate America of 2022. She just participated in New York Fashion Week. And she also spends a lot of time with her family replacing the flags on the veterans' graves in the cemetery. She comes from her grandfather's a veteran and her great-grandfather's a veteran. And I couldn't be more proud of this young lady and everything that she's accomplished for just our Veterans Gift Account, but what she does for veterans in the big picture. So I just want to really give her a heartfelt thank you, and I appreciate working with her. She's fabulous, and thank you guys for taking the time to acknowledge her for me. I appreciate that so much. So presented by the Plymouth Board of Selectmen to Hannah Gleason with a certificate of appreciation in recognition of her fundraising efforts and for raising over $7,000 for the town of Plymouth's Veterans Gift Account. Awarded today, the 26th day of April, 2022. Thank you so much. And just a small thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Roxanne. And thank you very much, Anna. Good job. We're going to move on to a public hearing for independent fermentation. 6:05, right? Yep. In accordance with Chapter 138 of the Massachusetts General Laws as amended, notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held remotely or in person at Plymouth Town Hall, 26 Court Street, Plymouth, Massachusetts, on Tuesday, April 26 at 6 p.m. to consider the application for an alteration of premises from the independent Fermentations Brewing LLC, holder of a Farmer Brewery pouring permit, 127 Camelot Drive, Paul Nixon, manager. Descriptions of premises will be as follows. Suite 3 at 127 Camelot Drive in Plymouth. Indoor area is divided into 2 rooms and a walk-in cooler totaling 1,600 square feet, all on the ground level. Outside patio is approximately 160 square feet near the main door. Applicant seeks to remove the outdoor patio area between building 127 and 125. They wish to add 55 by 25 feet outdoor area on the south side of the building, 127. They also wish to add a 3,400 square feet area to be used for special events 4 or 5 times a year. This area is an addition and adjacent to the 55 by 25-foot area. Anyone wishing to be heard on this matter should plan to attend this meeting. I now declare this meeting open. Is there anyone here, Chris, for the application?
I don't see him.
Okay. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this application? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition of this application? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board, close the hearing.
Motion to approve?
I'll second that.
Second by Mr. Flaherty. Discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. We'll wait a couple minutes, 6:10. We'll stop by the time I get ready, it'll be 6:10. Okay. In accordance with Chapter 138 of the Massachusetts General Laws as amended, notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held remotely or in person at the Plymouth Town Hall, 26 Court Street, Plymouth, Massachusetts, or on Tuesday, Plymouth, Massachusetts, on Tuesday, April 26, 2022, at 6:05 p.m., to consider the application for an annual all-alcohol restaurant license from Gulson Incorporated, doing business as Trails End Bistro, 1 Greenside Way, Suite 103, Son Gulson, manager. Description of premises will be as follows. 1,050 square feet of kitchen, dining room, outside patio, 2 bathrooms, 3 entrances and exits. Anyone wishing to be heard on this matter should plan to attend this meeting. I now declare this hearing open for Trails End Bistro. Anybody here?
Yes, we have Mr. Golson on the line.
How you doing? Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, how are you all doing?
Good, thank you. Is there anything you'd like to say on your application, or?
I was just excited, very excited to be able to serve the public at large, and this part of Plymouth definitely needs a business like this. It's much needed, much wanted, and that's it.
Okay. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this application? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I'm going to close the hearing and bring it back to the board.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Cavaco. Discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous.
Good luck, Sam.
Thank you, and good luck. We're just a little early here, so I have to wait until like 6:15, that's when it's posted, so. Well, they're here anyway, right? The party for the public hearing for the aquaculture, you're here, right, Doyle's? Okay, I'm gonna read it anyway.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna have a public hearing on the aquaculture license for Beth Ann Doyle, excuse me. Is there anything you would like to say to this? Comment on it? No? Well, if you could just,
Yeah.
and make sure the green light's on, ma'am.
Good evening. I just wanted to thank the members of the Select Board for taking a look at the application for this aquaculture lease and considering it.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. Doyle while she's up there?
No, but I'll make a comment if you'd like.
Absolutely.
So this agricultural license is for the Beth Doyle, and it was unanimously approved by the Harbor Committee.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the board? Waiting the board's pleasure.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bletzer. All those in favor? Oh, excuse me, discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you very
Congratulations.
much.
Yep,
Thank
thank you.
Congratulations.
Okay. 27 Plymouth's here? Okay. We're a little early, but this will probably take a few minutes anyway. We, just so the public watching knows, there's been a partnership change, I believe. If I'm saying something wrong, correct me, just jump right in. But it was Canavana, then it was Khalifa, and now it's going to be 27 Plymouth.
27 Plymouth,
Right?
correct,
And
Chairman.
it's mainly because the partnership is.
Yes,
changed.
yes.
Okay, so you want to talk to that
Yeah,
a little
so-
bit, so anybody that's watching understands? I
Yep.
know Ms.
Good evening,
Bach is
Chairman.
here, too.
Members of the board, thank you for having me, I believe, for the third time. Initially, our proposal back in September or August of last year was pushed. We received verbal approval for the HCA to move forward with recreational retail and cultivation, manufacturing, and processing. Up until December, we got the approval from the Select Board to move forward towards ZBA. At that point, our partnership went different ways. There was some things, they had other opportunities, the previous entity. So since I was the one leading everything, I decided to then just take it over. I am the president and founder of 27 Plymouth, Inc., and everything's mainly staying the same, just besides the ownership structure. We changed the layouts a little bit on the interior, exterior, everything is remaining the same. Really not much different, the renderings, everything, changing the site plan. Not much is different, again, just besides the ownership.
Okay, so we're really just looking like for an approval, really, to move on to the HCAO's community agreement,
Yes,
correct?
so we have I've been working closely with Ms. Pak and Mr. Bedeau. We believe that next week we should have an executed HCA. We've been going through some edits over the past few months. And then right before that, we do have ZBA scheduled for 5/18.
Okay. The only thing I would recommend, if it's possible, is to get something from the original partnership that you
Yes.
had, from the partners that are not there now.
Yes.
Saying that, signing something or making an agreement with you, just so our legal counsel and Tiffany can work on that with.
So I'll
Chris.
provide the PDF document for that. My counsel did provide a letter
Okay.
for you guys. We are finalizing discussions. We're basically done with the term sheet between one another. That was just on both parties to execute it.
Mhm. And this is for retail, sales, cultivation, and manufacturing,
Yes, sir.
correct? Okay. So, I'm just gonna touch a little on the host community agreement, and, I ask that I probably said it to you before, because you're a regular. And, I like to see somebody, any business that comes in the community to support something in the community.
Yes.
Of your choice. And, we got food banks, we got 4th of July, we got Thanksgiving, so, whatever, the shelters for men and women in town.
And Chairman, if I may interrupt, but what Roxanne was just stating, that was one of the things that we did want to donate to, was whoever leads up any veteran causes here.
Veterans,
We
that would be
definitely
Roxanne.
want to allocate some capital to those
So I
funds.
look favorably upon that,
Awesome,
so.
good.
Okay, anybody else have anything to put in there? So we're just gonna give them a nod, and you'll be back Yeah, Patrick, I'm sorry.
No, no worries. So, understanding how it's a new entity, and you mentioned that you are the one who's been leading it and are leading it now, the structure of the ownership, one thing we had talked about was the idea of keeping it local.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about how, if you've maybe taken on other owners, or if there's sort of how that structure looks, where it seemed to be very, very local before, and I
Yes.
think that was very positive.
So I am leading up the whole charge on that. Obviously, with any entity, I want to bring in the best team to make sure we execute on a very successful business. I am the president of the company, majority stakeholder in the company. With my partnership, I have known a few gentlemen throughout the years. I've been kind of part of the cannabis industry for the past 3 years, trying to get my feet wet in it. They will be moving here. One is California and New Jersey. They will be moving here and leading up operations with me. But they do not, they work for other companies. They've been in the cannabis industry for about 7 years. So they are going to partner with me on that and make sure that we do have a successful business. I can't run this fully on my own. With any business in this industry, there are multiple partners in it that have previous experience in the field.
Thank you. And just one more question. In the memo, it talked about, there's some language that might be incorporated about if there's any future sale or considerations that it would still have, we'll call it like a local ownership.
Yeah,
Is that
lo-
something that you're open to putting
Yeah,
into
so
the HCA?
with Mr. Bedeau and Ms. Park, we have been discussing that just based off like the legal language. That is something that we said we are definitely, because I understand the PTSD that Plymouth has. There's been a couple changes of ownership with MSOs, multi-state operators. We understand that. There is zero intention of doing that on our front. We're going to get this business open and operated. So the language that they're working out, we're obviously open to keeping that. And if there ever is an exit, which there's no plan to do so, it would be local Massachusetts resident agents and companies, yes.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Mr. Helm?
I have a question for Ms. Parks. Tiffany, you've been working with this group through its various iterations.
Yes, that's correct.
Do you have any concerns about the changes as they may cause confusion or difficulties in the final, the final constitution of this company, which is now known as 2-7?
So I think one of the most important things, and Chairman Quintel actually mentioned it, is that we get some sort of confirmation from the previous partnership showing that there's been a dissolution and that they understand that Mr. Suda is pursuing a host community agreement with the town on his own or with new partners. So I think that was probably one of the concerns that we had. We've asked him for that, and Chairman Quintel reiterated that tonight. So that would probably be one item that we would want to make sure that we check off our list before going forward. The other piece would be that the host community agreement that we've put together, we'll be using this template for this agreement, one with the botanist, which you may recall took over from Alfred's Finest. We're still working out the final details of that transition. And also with Healing Gardens, which is another one that's coming up soon. I've worked with Copeland and Page on what would be, I believe, the most comprehensive host community agreement that we've put together to date. It covers a lot of different categories that I think would be important to the board and the community. So I believe that with the host community agreement, we'll have a very strong outline of expectations for this group or any other group that would come into town seeking a host community agreement.
And one last question. In that new host community agreement template, have you put in the aspect that previous agreements have had of a charitable contribution beyond what they are required to pay?
Yep. So,
Okay.
and we'll work out the final details in the coming week or so. Excuse me, but there's a section for there's the community impact fee.
Right.
There's an annual benefit payment that
Okay.
the organization could choose to offer to the town of Plymouth. And there's also a section for annual charitable contributions that they could choose to offer to the town. So
Cool.
those three sections will be included in the agreement, and, we'll work out the details with Mr. Suda as to what they'll be offering.
Super. Thanks, Tiffany.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So unless the board has any questions, we're going to let them move on for the host community agreement.
Do you need a motion?
No? All set, Charlie? You good?
What's that?
You any questions or comments?
No.
Okay. Okay, then. Bring in the recommendations that the board asked and continue on.
Awesome, I appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Energy Committee update would be Mr. Farah.
Good evening, everyone. For the record, my name is Patrick Farah, Energy Officer for the town, and I want to introduce the group to the Energy Committee Chair, Holly States. She'll be starting off the presentation, and we're going to be bouncing back and forth. Thank you.
Oh, okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Okay, good. As Patrick said, I'm Holly States. I'm the chair of the Energy Committee, and we are joined tonight by not only Patrick Fair, our energy officer for the town and our liaison to the committee, but also Everett Malaguti, who is vice chair of the Energy Committee, and Jack Willett, who is one of our members, and John Mills, who is one of our newest members. And watching from home, I believe, are Nate Fanning, who is one of our newest members, as well as Ron Dabrowski, and they were not able to join us tonight. Also, Margie Burgess was unable to join us tonight because she had a long-scheduled previous commitment. So we are very pleased to be able to be here tonight, and thank you for inviting us. We will be presenting an update of not only the Energy Committee's work, but also of the energy savings initiatives for the town overall for about the past 10 years, and those have been spearheaded by the town's energy officer. So this is our agenda for tonight. I'm going to be talking about our mission and goals and the green communities status. I think you'll probably be interested to hear about that. And then Patrick is going to talk about EV charging stations, lighting and solar projects, and third-party power supply purchasing, and I will be chiming in on that too. And then looking ahead, I'll be talking about what we hope to be doing in the future and how we hope to be fitting in with the overall initiatives of the town. So the Energy Committee was first formed in 2004 by the Board of Selectmen, I guess that's what you were called then, and the initial reason was to consider having the town become a municipal light plant. That did not happen. It was deemed that it was not feasible at the time. But over the years, the Energy Committee has evolved into advising on energy policy overall, not just for electric policy. We, could you do the next slide, please? So our mission is, and this has been approved by the Select Board last year, is to help the town of Plymouth, its residents, and its businesses reduce the amount, cost, and carbon emissions of energy consumption. So we do this in several ways. One is providing comprehensive oversight of energy use, analyzing and promoting renewable and alternative energy sources, and educating residents and businesses about the resources and opportunities that are available to them. We have several goals that were approved by this board in February 2021. We have short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals. Our short-term goals, one of the most important and the one that has been a priority for us for some time now, is to achieve Green Communities designation. Another short-term goal is meeting with town staff to discuss ways to improve energy efficiencies at our buildings, our current buildings, and as well as future construction. And these two goals are related, and I want to talk a little bit about the Green Communities designation status, because that has been, as I said, our primary focus for the last couple of years. Right now, we have achieved 4 of the 5 criteria that are necessary to apply for designation from the Department of Energy Resources. Just to review, we have achieved the criteria 1 and 2 as of right siting and expedited permitting. And the town achieved these several years ago when it first started looking at the Green Communities program. This program started in 2010, and the town looked at it then, and I wasn't around at the time, but my understanding is that it was, the leadership decided not to pursue it. But at the time, the as-of-right siting and expedited permitting were both approved. The fourth criteria is fuel-efficient vehicle purchasing policy. The town approved that in 2011. However, the DOER wanted us to update the policy because it had been 10 years, and their criteria had changed a little bit. So we did that. We worked on that for quite a while. This board approved the policy in February of 2021, and the superintendent of schools approved it as well. So it's for both the municipal and school vehicles. We worked with town staff to put together a comprehensive inventory of vehicles for both the school and the town, and we're very grateful for the staff for putting in the time and resources to help us do that. What we discovered is that those pieces of information are dispersed among several different departments in town. So that was a bigger challenge than we thought, to put together that inventory, and it did take a substantial amount of time. We finally did get a comprehensive inventory that had all of the different categories that we need to look at going forward, and that was achieved in August of 2021. I'm going to skip to number 5, the Stretch Energy Code adoption. You probably remember that. That was approved by town meeting in August 2020, and then some language was updated, and that was approved at fall town meeting 2021. So the last criteria that we're working on, and we have been for some time, is number 3, and this is to establish an energy baseline as well as a 20% energy reduction plan. So the town contracted with Horizon Energy Solutions to do an audit of all town buildings and facilities and identify the sources of energy and try to put together a baseline. And what that means is we need to be able to measure what our energy consumption is before we can establish a reduction plan. So that took quite a bit of time. I won't go into all the reasons for the delays, but part of it was COVID and the inability to enter some buildings, but there are several other delays. We also have a technical assistance grant with Old Colony Planning Council, and they have been working with Horizon Solutions to take the data that has been collected and put it into what's called the Mass Energy Insight System. It's a free web-based tool that the state provides to communities and state agencies, and it uploads all of our energy information, and it enables the town to be able to track and monitor energy use, to identify ways that opportunities for improvement, and also to identify anomalies. If a particular building seems to be using a whole lot of energy, then you can look into this tool and try to find out what's going on. We didn't have that before. Again, just like the vehicles, we had energy information in several different areas, and again, we appreciate very much the town and school staff members who helped gather the information, because it wasn't that easy to find, and Brad will attest to that because he was very helpful on the school side to gathering that information. So we are now, just before we leave that, we're hoping that Old Colony Planning Council is still working to get that draft ready. When it is ready, which we hope will be in the next few weeks, it will need to be approved by the select board as well as the school superintendent. And once that happens, we will actually be able to apply for designation, and then that will probably take a couple of months to approve. But that's what we've been focused on for quite a while now, and this energy committee is going to make it happen. We're determined to do that. So we have some other short-term goals. One is to ramp up the mass awareness of the Mass Safe program and help residents and businesses tap into the resources there. Another is to meet with the library and community resources director staff to explore the possibility of an air curtain at the main entrance of the main library on South Street. And we're also, our midterm goals involve a lot of looking at solar projects. So one is looking at the potential of solar canopies on town and school parking lots. And we're in discussions about that. We're also looking at the potential of installing ground-mounted solar on the 2 landfills in town. So we've also been exploring that. And one thing we still need to do is to try to ensure that the current contracts that the town and school have with other entities, that we understand that all the details of those so that we don't violate any of those agreements going forward and working on these projects. And we also are looking at providing updates to the ground-mounted solar bylaw as needed. Another midterm goal is to explore the possibility of acquiring streetlights. As I think you know a little bit about this initiative, and if you want to ask us questions about that, you can ask now or at the end. But I think Patrick has talked to you before that Eversource had a program where the town could buy the streetlights for free, and that program ended. So now if we can still go forward with it, the town administration decided not to do it. But we can go forward with it, but it will now cost some money to do that. So that's something that we need to obviously talk to the town manager and to you about if you want to go forward on that. And our long-term goal is to explore the possibility of becoming our own energy efficiency program, much like Cape Light Compact has done for the Cape. So this would be taking over the Mass Save program type of programming and having Plymouth control it. And if people look at the bottom of their electric bill and see the energy efficiency charge, that charge goes to Eversource to conduct the programs. And this is a long-term goal, it would take a while to do, but if Plymouth wanted to do that, that money would come to Plymouth to then conduct those kinds of programs ourselves. And Patrick's going to talk about EV charging station.
Thanks, Holly. So I wanted to just spend a few moments and give an overview of what the town has been doing over the last 10 years. We've underwent a few initiatives, and the EV charging infrastructure that we have in town is definitely one successful initiative. As currently, we have 10 stations. One, unfortunately, was removed down in Manomet, and we're looking to relocate that. But right now, we have 10 operating EV charging stations throughout the town. You can tell by the little red dots. And just wanted to give the group some statistics on actual usage. Back in late 2012, early 2013, we installed a single unit through a grant through the Office of Community Development. And we figured that, well, maybe that unit would be used a dozen, 2 dozen times in a year's time. And that first year, it was used almost 200, there was almost 200 charging sessions. Well, as you could tell, as we added more units, so from March 2013 through the end of 2021, there's been almost 20,000 charging sessions that occurred in the town. Actually, Plymouth is fortunate to have more EV charging, or the largest EV charging infrastructure on the South Shore, south of Quincy. And just for some context, during the lifespan through December of 21, over 87,000 metric tons of greenhouse gases have not gone into the atmosphere. So that's a huge number. So this program has actually become very successful. The next thing I want to talk about are some of the lighting and solar projects we've been working on as a town. I provided the select board with a spreadsheet showing the different breakdown of the different projects. So a number of 29 different installations and retrofits throughout the town, such as ornamental streetlights, and at the highway barn, some of the mechanic shop lighting, as well as the outdoor and the parking lot lights. You can see the list. Total grant funding for these 29 projects since 2012, almost $650,000. If you accumulated all the savings based on all the different projects, large and small, including the last three, which was at the South Street Library, the police headquarters, as well as PCIS. We are anticipating, or the town will anticipate a rough, almost $175,000 in annual savings based on all these projects. Let's talk about some grants that have been secured. And I have to tell you, I know Tiffany's not here right now, but I am very thankful for that position. And she's going to be great in this position. There are a lot of grants out there, and I can't track them all. So I'm looking forward to working with her in the future. However, over the last 10 years, we've secured over $1.1 million worth of grants, which included a couple for anaerobic digestion, a feasibility study, also a lot of funding for electric vehicle charging stations through Mass DEP. So you could tell the town invested just over $200,000, and we received over $1.1 million. I think that's a great return. Also, the municipality kind of piggybacked with the school department regarding buying what's called renewable energy credits, solar renewable energy credits from facilities out in Wareham, Carver, and used to be Freetown. I don't think that they're being used anymore. However, the school department actually took the majority of the renewable energy credits, and at the excess, the municipality received. So those renewable energy credits, because obviously in Wareham, when you have a large ground-mounted solar project, we don't buy the actual electrons, we just buy the credits that are generated off of that system. So you could tell since fiscal year 2015, the municipality alone has received over $1.2 million in savings. So while I was putting this presentation together and compiling the data, no one has really tracked the amount of residential and commercial rooftop solar projects. So I asked, and they gave. I contacted Inspectional Services, and through April 1st, 2022, from, I guess, when they first started compiling the data through Munis, over 1,547 residential rooftop, and I think there's one or two ground-mounted projects have been installed and or permitted that are going through the installation process or construction process now in the town. And that was actually quite a large number. Number of solar panels, almost 41,000. So the industry, the solar industry, calculates each state on what the average amount of daylight hours there are, or sunlight hours in a day. And Massachusetts, being up at this latitude, only has 3.84 hours average throughout the year. So you take that rated of 8.675 megawatts from those 1,547 systems, you multiply it, and that gives you the kilowatt hour, and in turn to megawatt hour. So The estimated total annual energy production in town by residential rooftop projects is over 12 megawatt hours. Commercial roof-mounted projects, there are currently 62 of them. Almost 31,000 solar panels have been installed. And now we're looking at a total annual energy production of over 14 megawatt hours. Now we look at the large ground-mounted solar projects. There are 20, 19 of them have been installed. One is under permitting phase down in Hedges Pond Road. And you could tell, and you can see here on the bottom, almost 43,000 megawatt hours of generation. So we put all these numbers together, we're close to 70 megawatt hours annually generated. And I received data from our consultant, Colonial Power, that gave us 2019 load data. This is for the entire town. This is municipal, commercial, and residential of over 400,000 megawatt hours. So we're right around 2% is offset by solar. So we have a ways to go. We have started, but there is definitely room for improvement. So let's talk about third-party power supply purchasing. There are two programs I'm going to kind of talk about briefly. One is through, again, the municipality piggybacked with the school department, and you can tell from the fiscal year 15 through, I think it's like half of 2021, that's the latest data that I could get, the municipality has saved over $366,000. The slide I know is a little fuzzy, but we're going to talk about Plymouth's Community Choice Power Supply Program, which went through town meeting, went before this board several times. The program started, or actually was commissioned in October of 2017. In October of 2020, the previous town manager signed a 3-year contract and with a supply rate, a fixed supply rate of 9.807 cents per kilowatt hour. This second contract was actually about a half a penny less than the first contract, which was, I think, at 10.3. What is really interesting about this second contract, I helped negotiate, or I tried to negotiate with the consultant to look, and they were very successful in finding an optional 100% green product for supply, and that is at 9.897 cents per kilowatt hour. So we're not talking about a large difference here for the average homeowner. Let me try to get here. So, Holly, if you want to talk about Energy Switch.
So the Energy Committee worked with the town manager, the previous town manager, to enable Plymouth, all of Plymouth's electric supply options to be listed on this website. It's called energyswitchma.gov, and it's sponsored by the Mass Department of Public Utilities. This is also probably a little hard to read, but the two round seals represent Plymouth's community power program. And if you see up at the top, Eversource, its rate is 15.7 cents per kilowatt hour, and this just went up about 50% in January. A couple things are really great about our program is that it's stable for 3 years, it doesn't fluctuate, and it has, as Patrick mentioned, it has that 100% green energy option. And if you see the estimated monthly costs in the right-hand column, the difference between for the average customer choosing the 100% green energy option or not is 54 cents a month. So we really want to try to emphasize to people that they can opt to support the development of clean energy and to get their sources from clean energy sources if they would only opt for that. If they don't opt for it, if someone does nothing, they are automatically enrolled in Plymouth's program. But a lot of people have chosen to other suppliers. And what I really want people to understand, what we really want people to understand, is that a lot of those suppliers are sending people direct mail, they're going door to door, and they're trying to get people to switch. But if you look down at all of these other options, Plymouth's program has the best rates, and it's stable over time, and it offers that 100% clean energy option. So people need to really look at their energy supplier. If it says Dynergy on the electric bill, they're already enrolled. And if they want to do the 100% clean energy, they need to opt in. But they really need to try not to go with another supplier because it's not a good deal for them.
If I can
Yep.
add one thing? Thanks. Also, there's a thing called winter reliability charges. So if we get pummeled with large winter storms, a lot of times the utility will provide this add this little winter reliability charge, and that's to cover the cost of the crews coming from different states to help fix our infrastructure. This is already incorporated in that cost. So as long as Dynegy doesn't go out of business, this is the rate. And right now, we have actually the best rates in the state. So, and this is good through the end of June of this year, because every 6 months, Eversource goes out shopping, and we don't know what their summer rates will be at this point. So,
Patrick,
yes, sir.
Excuse me for a minute. Do we have that chart on the town's website anywhere? So if, like if I wasn't
Yes,
watching this presentation tonight?
Yes, it's embedded deep in the town's website.
Maybe you could give us a simple version, send it to Chris and have him put it on our website?
I would love to.
With a number?
Yeah, right now,
Okay.
it's in the, under boards and committees.
Right.
Energy Committee. But yeah, this would be really good to have on the town's, like, homepage or so.
Sure. And
Yep.
if I may, for our seniors, has anybody reached out to Michelle Brady? Maybe have somebody go in and do a presentation for our seniors and explain this to them to make sure that they're getting the lowest cost, energy. I think that's one way, that, if we could help them out, it'd be really great. I mean, these are the things that get missed. As
Yeah,
I'm sitting here thinking
we've done
of it,
this
that-
at the center
You have?
already. Yes.
Okay, great.
So this is one of my favorite slides. It should be everybody's, I guess, when you're looking at costs. So from October 2017 through the anticipated savings of through June of 2022, the community, now this is not for the municipality, this is for the community as a whole, all us taxpayers, residents, have saved over $15.2 million. Just by going on the town's program. Thank you.
So we're going to close with remarks about looking ahead, and then, of course, if you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them at the end. So looking ahead, the town of Plymouth is well-positioned to become a leader within the region when it comes to energy conservation, savings, and climate change mitigation. We're poised to become a designated green community any day now, which will provide us with not only the grant funding that comes with it, but also a roadmap to identify the projects that will save the most energy and costs. And once these projects are completed, of course, they're energy savings and cost savings projects, so they're going to provide ongoing savings to continue to reduce our energy costs and carbon emissions over time. In addition, the 2020 Climate Ready Healthy Plymouth report, funded by the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Planning Grant, recommended several action steps that the town can take to mitigate climate change and impacts, including reducing energy use and expanding renewable energy. An MVP action grant currently is funding education and research into saltwater intrusion. In the past year, Plymouth's leadership, have adopted a climate emergency declaration. You've established a climate action net zero advisory committee, net zero action plan advisory committee, approved a local civic agricultural program, and created a climate resiliency officer position for the town. All of these initiatives working in concert will help make Plymouth lower energy costs, reduce carbon emission, and make the community a healthier, more resilient one. The Commonwealth of Massachusetts has established a goal of achieving net zero carbon emissions by 2050. It's imperative that every city and town in the state take the actions necessary to support this goal, and Plymouth is well on its way to doing so. The Energy Committee and Energy Officer look forward to working with the town's leadership and being an integral part of this effort. Thank you, and please let us know if you have any questions.
Thank you both. Any questions from board members? Charlie, Mr. Blitzer?
I just have a comment I'd like to make to Patrick, if I could.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Patrick, no pun intended, but I love your energy. And I know when I was on the PGDC, I loved when you came before us and we introduced the charging stations with your help, and some of the solar lighting and LED lighting and some of the lamps downtown in the parking lot. So you really get into your job, and I appreciate it, all the money you're saving for the town of Plymouth. I just want to give you a pat on the back. Great work. And please keep it up with your committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to thank you both and your committee for all the hard work you do in the community. And I am very interested in any information you can provide in the future about taking over the street lighting, but it brings me to the next thing with how many of them are actually out. You know.
The utility-owned ones?
Yes.
Yeah, so as a courtesy through our department, residents can call the planning office or DPW, and there is a form, a streetlight repair form that is vetted through me. I contact Eversource because sometimes getting all the utility can be challenging. And I also keep a spreadsheet, which I also provide that update of how many streetlight repair requests have gone through the town on an annual basis, and it's in the annual report.
Okay. Any other comments from the board? Thank you again, and if you could start gathering information on that, on, you know, if you need to, on the streetlight program and what, you know, what actually programs they might have on that.
Yeah, right now, nothing.
Right.
As of December, but I will take direction.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. White Horse Beach restrooms update.
So we have DPW Director Jonathan Vita, who's with us on the virtual platform. He's here to give us.
Oh, there he is.
the White Horse Beach restroom program.
Welcome, Mr. Beta. We can't hear you. Are you muted?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Sorry about that.
There you go.
Good to see everybody. Jonathan Beta, Director of Public Works. We're here to talk about the White Horse Beach portable restroom trailer. We're seeking your approval this evening to utilize the American Rescue Plan Act funding that we currently have, some remaining dollars from previous requests, to purchase a restroom trailer, a portable trailer that we could use down at Taylor Ave for White Horse Beach this season. And again, we could utilize this every season from this point forward. We think it's a really good request. It's a little bit more accommodating the porta potties that we use. We have worked with the procurement officer. We could get a bid out next week. Hopefully we could have a unit there available in place probably sometime in June. We're happy to answer any questions. It's a pretty straightforward request at this time. There's a lot of different models of trailers. A lot of different types of communities utilize these. We have to run the water service in off of Taylor Ave, which would be pretty straightforward and provide power. But again, it'd be 2 units, a male and a female, plus an ADA bathroom. We think this would be an extremely great convenience for the beachgoers down at Whitehorse. So again, we're happy to answer any questions. So thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from board members? Mr. Helm?
Hey, JB.
Yeah.
Beyond the purchase price of approximately $100,000, what do you anticipate the annual maintenance cost to be?
Yeah, great question, Harry. Yeah, one is we have to routinely pump this. You know, we have to use the sewer vac truck to pump this. We're not sure what the flows would be. That's all depending on usage, so we'd have to kind of watch that closely. I would think pretty much weekly, especially if we have great weather during the weekends. And then just typical cleaning. It's something we'd like to offer our custodians. If not, we'd have to utilize our cleaning company bid. But I don't think it would be excessive in terms of cost, because I think most of the stuff could be done, you know, in-house. The only thing we'd watch is for, you know, any type of, you know, vandalism, but we kind of work with PD on that. But very low cost, you know, in terms of septic pumping. You know, that would be something that water current can do and dispose of at the plant, so there'd really be no cost of that. So just an annual cleaning cost. And if that was in-house, probably, you know, a couple $100 a week just to run this facility.
Okay, so you're anticipating using in-house, you know, maintenance cleaning resources rather than an outside company, correct?
Yeah, that's
Cool.
correct. Yeah.
So what are we currently paying for basically a number of months every year for the porta-johns that we've been using for the past few years?
Yeah, I don't have that number with me. I mean, we have those porta potties set to go, you know, mid-May, and they usually run through the weekend after Labor Day. I want to tell you they're at least a few $1,000s.
So,
And those two we pay for cleaning and pumping, all are part of that purchase price.
okay, so,
Betty, you have an answer for that?
No, I just had
Oh, all
a
right.
comment after you're done.
well, yeah, I was just kind of wondering
I thought you
what,
knew the answer.
you know, I was just kind of wondering what we're currently paying versus what we, you know, will be paying, you know, so, anyway, and I know that the porta-johns are highly problematic in terms of the fact that they get knocked over on almost a weekly basis. So, anyway, go ahead, Betty, sorry.
Well, I haven't seen them actually knocked over in quite some time, especially since we have our enforcement that's down there. But one of the things that folks also need to realize is that we're going to be able to use this in the off-season, like the Thanksgiving Day Parade, any events that we'll have after that Memorial Day timeframe. And as people know, yeah, porta potties are kind of disgusting. They are disgusting, not kind of. And this is like a regular running water, so it'll be a much better fit for the community, and it's going to be really hard to knock over a trailer. So.
Yeah, I do have the answer to Mr. Helm's question. It's $1,600 per unit we pay for the season.
Any other questions or comments from board members? Betty?
I do have a letter to read
Yes,
from
you
the
do. Betty.
Manamet Village Steering Committee, and it says, "Dear Chairman Richard Quintal and Select Board members, the Manamet Village Steering Committee had their monthly meeting on January 27, 2022 by remote virtual Zoom. On the agenda was the MVSC Master Plan to discuss the actions, policies, and goals. As an advisory body with the primary functions being to assist in the implementation of the Manamet Village Master Plan and to advocate for the needs of the area, we discussed several issues from the master plan regarding accomplishments and how we would move forward to implement those that were not. The Taylor Ave bathhouse was one of the issues that was discussed, and unfortunately, the members did not see moving forward in supporting the building of a bathhouse at 54 Taylor Ave. They see this as a delayed issue year after year, and the concerns of several reasons why this project has been delayed for such a very long time. The members of the Manomet Village Steering Committee did make a motion to move forward by sending a letter to the Select Board and Planning Board expressing their support for a mobile comfort station. The committee members see this is the better solution for the residents now, especially where it will only be used in the summer months. Thank you for your time and consideration of this matter. Sincerely, Alice Baker, Chairman, Ed Aluso, Vice Chair, Nancy Kenyon, Clerk, Lou Cabana, David Golden, Janet Kelly, and Denise McFarland.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board? We need a vote on this?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve using ARPA funds for the comfort station for White Horse Beach as proposed in our packet.
I'll second that.
Second by Mr. Helm. Discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Pilot language, Article 7. Mr. Brandisi.
Yes, through the chair. So what's before you this evening, as you all know, on Article 7, special town meeting, back on April 2nd, town meeting approved the article to submit special legislation for a payment in lieu of taxes authority to enter into an agreement with Holtec. So we've been working with special counsel and working with Rep. Muratori's office on submitting this home rule petition. During that process, we've identified a few minor modifications to the special legislation that, under the article that was approved, allows for the Select Board to make any amendments. So what's before you today, if I could just read to you the amendment that's within the article. On the very end of this article, after, as shown on the Town of Plymouth's assessors map, we would like to include, including spent fuel pools and dry cask storage systems in which nuclear fuel is stored and is pending further or final disposal from a nuclear-powered electric generation facility following the permanent cessation of power operations of such facility. And again, the reason why we need to add that language, because it'll give us the ability to go ahead and tax the spent fuel pools and dry cask storage systems as potentially personal property.
Thank you. Questions from the board? Okay. Would you like a vote on that, Derek?
Yes, please.
I'll make a motion.
Motion. Do I have a second? Second, Mr. Blutzer. Discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Special town meeting, 46 Sandwich Street. I'm going to touch on this briefly because there's a lot of details that still need to be explained with it, but I'm going to give you the version of what I saw happen. In negotiations with Holtec, we, the town, was quoted for the Chiltonville site $7 million. At that time, we, the town, thought that was a little exorbitant, if you will, and we just left it there and so on and so forth. Then I heard later on, maybe a month ago or so, at a chamber dinner, that Holtec had sold the property to Mr. Veo, and for $2.3 million. Upon hearing that news, I took it upon myself to see if one of the employees or spokespeople for the company happened to be at the same event I was at, and he was. So I went over to him as calmly as I could and said, could I speak with you in the hallway? And, you know, we had a colorful conversation. That being said, I reached out to Mr. Veo immediately and asked him to please come to Town Hall to talk about this acquisition. I must say, honestly, I've never met Mr. Veo. This is the first time, and he's in the room. He handled himself like a gentleman, and he did come to Town Hall, and we talked, and we came to an agreement, and that's why we are calling a special town meeting, and for no other reason. I'm hearing rumors, and I don't know, they're out there, but this is why we are calling a town meeting, because this transaction has to take place for our other party on June 30th. I believe the sale price is 3.775, Mr. Brandisi.
3.75.
3.75, and that was very understandable considering what he has put into it and what naturally he could have, I don't want to use the word made, but off the property, the success of the project. Ever since I've been negotiating, I've always said it, maybe I shouldn't have, in public, that when I talk about the power plant and decommission, I've always talked about Chiltonville. It's very important to me, and I think a lot of people in the town. It's a quaint area, and I believe it needs to stay that way. So I, as a select board, put this together with Mr. Veo's help, Mr. Brandisi and the board, and I don't know if I'm saying too much here, but I just want the facts to be correct and right. So we've called a town meeting. It's for this exact reason, and it has to be by June 30th, as to the seller. And we went for a site visit. So it has a lot of possibilities, and, you know, the boards, when they're here, and whenever the town decides to do it, I don't know who'll be sitting here, but they'll have a nice project. I know we have a couple $1 million plus in free cash, but you know what? I'm gonna leave that to the finance director to recommend how she wants to move forward with this. But I took it upon myself to reach out to Mr. Cohan at the CPC and asked him, you know, if the town needed a little help, would he be willing to consider buying a remainder of that property and putting it in conservation? Now, naturally, Bill can't say yes to me. I mean, you'd have to fill out an application, and just like everybody else, but he definitely showed interest. He thought it was a very good idea as to that point. So that's where we're at. And also, years before I was here, the town did a study where the new fire station, which will eventually replace Central Station, Station 1, and that's one of the areas that they chosen. So it's going to cost a little money, but the town can also put their public safety building there. The town's also looking for space for a cemetery, and most of all, will save Chiltonville. And that one's from my heart, Wedgie and Dr. Rushforth. And I've kept Chuck Bramhall and Mark Withington in my conversations all the way through this. You know, this is what's going on, and so when the reason everybody kind of got going was it Friday? I guess they put the announcement in the newspaper. So if town meeting was to turn this down, then he would move forward, putting in, I believe, 62 units.
Cool.
So, you know, so that's what that was. You know, it's real. And, you know, again, he's here in the audience, and I say thank you to you for working with the town, because you didn't have to, by no means, and you did, you understood. And he was not happy when I told him the whole story. I mean, they never said anything to him. They actually reached out to him. So, if that tells you what this town is dealing with them, and why we have special counsel, and it's gonna be a very slow move with these people. And I don't wanna say too much, because they can hear everything I'm saying, so I'm just gonna say they're tough. We got it back. We're going to town meeting, and we hope that town meeting supports it. I believe they will. I also reached out to Catherine Holmes on Sunday. because I wanted her to reach out to precinct chairs so that they could get the information tonight and not jump, if you will. And we had a nice conversation. She appreciated the call, and she'll educate her members. There'll be more information as we move forward. I can tell you that we have a clean 21E already, and Mr. Vale provided that with us, and Mr. Betters is a different gentleman now because he's retired. I spoke with him, and the title came back clean the last 15 years, so. And Betty, myself, and Derek, and both chiefs visited the site. Is it Friday? Friday, we did a walkthrough with Mr. Vale. It's a beautiful building. It's a little ugly on the outside, but nothing a little love can't fix. But there's a lot of opportunity there, and you know, I believe that the town meeting will save Chiltonville. So I don't know if anybody else has any comments. There's going to be, we can't answer, I really don't want to answer too much stuff tonight on it because what I've told you is what I have, we have. And as we progress further, we will have more information for you. Like the appraisal is, you know, been audited, but we don't have the appraisal. So, we will by town meeting.
Can I?
Yes, go ahead, and then I'll
Oh,
recognize Mr. Cirque.
you can go first, Mr. Cirque, if you'd like.
Rich Cirque, Precinct 2. I'm wondering whether you're contemplating purchasing this property from Mr. Vale once he takes title from Holtec, on the one hand, or whether you've considered eminent domain against Holtec as an alternative. Because if you purchase it from Vale, you're purchasing it at the retail price with a $1.45 million markup. Whereas if you take it by eminent domain from the town, you'd be presumably purchasing it at 2.3, which was the value that Mr. Veo said that he has agreed to pay to Holtec. So that's
Right,
my question.
we took this under advisement with our council, and council advised us not to go this road. There were too many things that were unsure.
I'll wait to hear more. It puzzles me, it baffles me, because if you have a legitimate public purpose, and you've mentioned the fire station, cemetery, open space, all of which are legitimate public purposes, I don't understand why you wouldn't.
Well, I really don't want to discuss it here tonight because the other side's watching. I can tell you, we ran this by our council, and this is the advice that they gave us. This is more of a friendly eminent domain than a regular eminent domain, so.
So, one of the things about the training center and Mr. Cirque, I can tell you, we did explore eminent domain quite vigorously because I thought that was the way to go until our special counsel told us that there are different options. The property is assessed at 3.6?
3.466.
It's 2.4?
3.46.
Oh.
Is the assessed value.
Yeah,
Betty?
so anyway.
Assessed value.
Oh, 3.66.
No, 3.4.
3.46, I can't read. So that was one of the guidelines that our special counsel gave us, and like I said, Friday was really the first time I had ever met with Mr. Veo. I had been in the building before. Obviously, people know that I worked there for 30 years. It is a very large building, and I know one of the commitments of this town, of this board, is to be able to allow some open space, which is why we asked Mr. Cohan, you know, if he could help out. So I believe it's a good purchase for the town. It has 24.6 acres that goes along with it. It's a very large building. If we decide, or if the town decides that we're going to do additional, We could put training facilities in there, or police. I mean, there's a lot of options, but eminent domain was definitely on the table, and our special counsel strongly advised against it.
Yeah, I'm not questioning the desire to make the property of the town. I'm just questioning the means by which the town would acquire it, because it's, I anticipate there'll be a lot of questions at town meeting as to why we're paying 1.45 million more than Mr. Veo is paying. And usually in eminent domain cases, there's a significant issue about valuation, whether the price was right. In this particular case, you've got a purchase and sale agreement apparently for 2.3 million, and valuation, that's the best evidence of what the property is worth, what the seller is willing to pay for it, sell it for, and what a buyer is willing to pay for it. So I don't know why eminent domain would be so difficult, but I'll await further information through you from town council, but it seems to me like it's the way to go.
I'm not going to say anything more.
No, don't. Mr. Vale.
So I just want to address a couple of things about the eminent domain and the appraisal and whatnot.
Thank you.
So I guess I couldn't disagree more with that. If it were to go eminent domain, it would not go through at the purchase and sale price that I negotiated because I was willing to close quick or without contingencies or whatever else might be involved in that. It would go through at a minimum of the assessed price, but in all likelihood, and if you look at eminent domain cases over the last 50 years, it's going to go through at an appraised value of what the property could be used for. That appraised value will come back at 5 to 6 million. So if we'd like to wait for eminent domain, I'll be more than happy to buy it and go through that. But I don't think that's the best route of the town. I think the price that was negotiated by the board and myself is very fair considering what's been put into it, what the potential use is, and what we are giving up in opportunity costs for the betterment of Plymouth when the select board asked us to do so. So I, concur with the board that it's absolutely the best road to go.
Thank you. Patrick?
Thank you, and I guess I have a couple questions, but first about just the process tonight to opening the warrant. Is the price something that we're talking about tonight that we're going to be putting into that, I guess that, on the warrant, or is that something that happens later between now and next week? That
Through the chair, so the typical process is we'll open the warrant, we'll set a date, we'll close the warrant. That gives an opportunity for folks to submit articles. I don't expect to get a number of articles in. The administration will go ahead and prepare the warrant. We'll send that draft warrant to the board and to the Advisory and Finance Committee. And then at some time in the future, the board will discuss each article that is before them for the potential June 21st date.
And just because I have to ask, the price that was negotiated with the board, what does that mean? Because it was negotiated with parts of the board, but not the whole board. So where are we at with that? And do we have a say or a vote on what that price will be as a board for that recommended article?
I'm sure, but I think you were at the same executive session we were all at. And that's, we haven't signed the document with Mr. Vale. Because if we did, then we could be liable for, if town meeting was to vote against it, they could work against us that way also.
I was at that executive session, but I didn't think we had come to an agreement on the price. I thought the next steps were a couple other things before we were going to talk about price. One was going to be the appraisal, and we haven't got that.
The appraisal's been audited. It'll be within 6 weeks.
Right, the results of the appraisal. So.
You know what I'm saying? We're going as fast as we can with an appraisal.
No, and
Bill and I worked, Mr. Cohan and I worked with Mr. Vale with several companies, at least 6.
Yeah.
And we got one that could do it within, I believe, was 6 weeks.
Understood. And I agree that getting this property back for the town is a big win. I see the assessed value as something that I think would be more palatable to town meeting and for looking at the whole situation. We haven't seen the purchase and sale, so I can't really comment on that. I don't want to comment on that, but that assessed value, I think it's hard to shake a stick at from town meeting, because it's our own assessed value, we're getting the property back. But once we go over that, that's where I personally have some reservations. I just want to say that.
Well, I don't think there's a resident in this room that sold their house for assessed value. I mean, I wouldn't sell any of my property for it, just saying.
Well, okay,
So,
so.
you know what, rather than argue about, it, we haven't
Yeah.
got to that point yet. Let's get the appraisal.
But it sounds like we're putting an article forward that's going to have a
What
price
we-
on it.
No, what
by
we
next-
have to do is we don't have to put the price in today. What we have to do is call for a special town meeting. That's what we're doing today. We'll have that appraisal as soon as, if it's next week, we'll have it, or 2 weeks, I'm gonna say probably more like 3 weeks. But in order to have that date, and to meet a June 30th deadline.
Got it, yeah.
That's why we're discussing it tonight, no other reason. And I apologize, I know that we don't have all the, some things you can't control. But I did say that in the opening statement. We do not have everything before us. But in order to call a town meeting, you have to do it so many days in advance. That's what we're doing.
Understood, and I get that part.
I mean, and that's
yeah.
the only reason. If it wasn't for that, then we wouldn't even be talking about it till we had all that stuff.
Right, totally understand that. I think my comment is more about the price itself, less the process
Right.
of getting to the town
We'll
meeting.
get to that before, town meeting. I don't know if you'll be here, but if the appraisal's done, you will be. Mr. Helm?
Yeah, I'd just like to point out that the reason that we're here tonight is not necessarily to vote on an offer price that will be part of the warrant article. That will come before the warrant article is constructed, and then the residents of Plymouth will be able, through their town meeting representatives, to vote on whether they agree to the purchase price or not. It's not going to be the Board of Selectmen that is going to end up agreeing to the purchase price. It will be town meeting members. That's how it works. That's how our form of government works. The article will be put forward, it will go in front of town meeting, and you all, town meeting members, will have the ability to debate it, discuss it going in. Precinct caucuses, if there are precinct caucuses, just like a normal one. It will be a special town meeting, and this is one of the reasons special town meetings should be called. And that's what this process is tonight. And what the eventual purchase price is will be, or offered, will be totally up to town meeting. There will be one on the warrant, but like any budgetary request, I'm sure that if town meeting feels the need, and after investigating the assessed value versus the appraisal versus what Mr. Veo paid for it, if town meeting decides it doesn't like that purchase price, that's how it works in the town of Plymouth, in town meetings. So, that's kind of what we're doing here tonight, is to get the ball rolling so that town meeting can vote on this. Because basically, if we don't start moving forward, it puts the possibility that town meeting won't get a vote on it, that this will not be potentially acquired by the town, and that McGryco will continue with their process. I feel pretty confident, and Mr. Veo can confirm this, he is still going to have the meeting on May 4th or whenever it was in front of the planning board. He's moving forward while we move forward. McGryco is not going to stop their process to wait for us to come to a decision. So we need, and we've been informed that the decision point that we as a town must make is June 30th. And, you know, we need to do what we can to make that date, which requires us to call a special town meeting, which is what we're doing. So I just wanted to clarify that. Also, you know, Derek, would you, we had a conversation today, would you please explain what the warrant, that opening a warrant doesn't just mean that this would be the only thing on that warrant? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So through the chair, anytime we open the warrant, it provides the opportunity for departments, boards, and committees to submit placeholder articles for consideration. It also gives the community an opportunity to submit citizens petitions as well. Given that this is a short turnaround, a special town meeting, this warrant period is only open for a week. But, you know, we think that's a fair opportunity to be open and transparent for individuals to consider additional articles. You know, if this was a annual town meeting or the fall town meeting, you know, it's open for a 6 to 8 weeks period. So, you know, potentially there could be other articles that are submitted to the administration that we will put on the draft warrant for consideration.
Mr. Blitzer?
Yes. I just want to give you my perspective and what I know about this. You know, we talked about this 26 acres being sold and to Mr. Vail, and we talked about it, and we agreed. And I even said that Mr. Vail, because I was involved with the Santander Bank with PGDC, and I found Mr. Vail to be very reasonable once you talk to him. And we ended up negotiating with him. He actually stepped away from the Santander and let the PGDC purchase that for the town. So I had success with him, and I had suggested that why don't we approach him, because this is a piece of land that we really wanted. And oh, by the way, I've gotten more calls on this 26 acres, probably more than I've gotten on the horse race issue. So all the neighbors are very concerned about having units there, having housing units. And they all said to me they would love to see this public safety facility built. So Chairman Quintal negotiated and talked to him, and we agreed. You know, when the price came back, we knocked them down a little bit, but there was negotiations, and everybody was wanted to purchase the land. Yeah, did we want to pay $1 million more than what he did? No, but he's a businessman, and he had the property, and he's got engineering, he's got a lot of things into this property. But we negotiated with him and came up with a price. Did we vote on it finally? No, I thought it was something we were going to do tonight. But that being the case, I know Chairman Quintal wants to get it. We need a special town meeting. We have to get it done tonight because it's got to be, I'm not sure the date, but it's got to be before the 30th. So anyway, knowing about all this, I was at an event with a representative for Holtec, and I asked that gentleman, you know, what's going on? How could you sell that to a private developer when you know the town wants it? And Dickie's been, and he said to me, and this is what he said, you can quote me on it, but he said that he offered it to the town manager at the time, the former town manager, and for a year didn't hear anything back. And that's when he approached Mr. Vail. That's what he said, okay, whether it's true or not. So if anybody fumbled the ball, it was our former town manager, and I'm not blaming her, I'm just telling you what he said. So as far as I'm concerned, by us, we're saving, I think we're saving this property. Yeah, we're gonna pay a little bit more money than we probably would have, but it's a hell of a lot less than $7 million. And when the appraisal comes in, I guarantee you it's gonna be a lot more than 3.75 million. So, you know, as far as the price goes, I think the price should go at 3.7 million, go to town meeting with it, and hopefully they see the value, that we see the value. Because for us to try and change this price, now we're not negotiating in good faith with Mr. Vail. And as far as the eminent domain goes, time and money. I don't know how long he could hold us up with that, how long it would take, and how much money would it take? I'm sure, man, it'd be several $100,000, I bet, to fight that. So you can add that to the price too. So tonight, I was prepared tonight to vote 3.75 million, send it to town meeting, special town meeting, and hopefully they have the final say. They're the ones that, they're the legislators, they're the ones that appropriate the money and tell us we can do it. But hopefully, they see the value like we see the value. And like the neighbors are gonna be delighted. I tell you, and a lot of them watching this meeting tonight. And they would love to see a public safety buffered by open space, okay? And that's what I'd love to see there too. So hopefully, Mr. Cirque, that you get what we're trying to do here. We paid a little bit more money probably than Mr. Bayo did, but I think we're still gonna get a good value, and we're saving that neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. And the date is June 21st, and the reason it's the 21st is because June 20th, I believe, is a Monday, and Juneteenth, I believe, falls on the weekend. So the Monday is considered a holiday, and that's why we're to the 21st of June. And one part I didn't touch on, if it is used for a fire facility, for Station 1 will eventually have to come down, and that'll be for another time. But it definitely needs it. We've outgrown it, and if you walk through it, you'll see what we're talking about. And if it was to come down, you could make that part of Stevens Field. So really, it's a win all the way around, in my eyes, so. Yep. I see a hand up. I'll get you next.
Just a question for Derek. So when we're opening the warrant tonight.
That's correct.
We'll close it next week.
That's correct.
Between now and then, we'll draft an article. And do you anticipate having the article have the purchase price in the article?
No, I do not in the article. The purchase price would be derived from the purchase and sale agreement, which the board's going to have to approve.
What will town meeting be voting on then?
The purchase price, at some point, because again, this is a draft article, can be included in the article or can be included in the motion. So I could put a 3.75 purchase price in there, but we don't have an executed P&S.
I'm just trying to understand, the process. I got, 4 meetings left.
Right.
This is in the 4 meetings, and I'm going to be asked to vote on this. So when I, wanted to find out for tonight, like what we were going to be asked to do, I didn't know. I didn't know what we're going to be asked to do tonight. So it just knowing when we're going to put our vote on, if we are, of a price, that's just important to me, to know when that will happen, if it will happen. And if it's more than 4 meetings from now, then
Right, so.
Go nuts.
So, looking at the timeline, and again, not having an appraisal, not having executed P&S, I mean, I'll defer to the chair, but I don't think the warrant review will take place next Tuesday. There's just, in my opinion, there's just not enough information. Because I'm looking at the crowd, and there's a lot of people here that have a lot of questions that, without all of the information, such as an appraisal, such as a purchase and sale agreement, such as what the contribution will be from CPC, I honestly don't believe we'll have all of those questions answered in 7 days.
No.
And I know that in order for you as a board member and the other board members, in order to make an informed decision, you're gonna want the answers to the questions that I just came off the top of my head.
Yeah, yep, fair enough, I understand. we've all been sitting in the same meeting, so I understand, but you get where I'm concerned about how this feels like it's already done.
Mr. Vale? And then you, ma'am? Rick, will you please make sure the mic's on? Thank you. Okay.
So I just felt compelled to talk about the price a little bit. So when I was asked to come in and discuss this property, Chairman Quintel and the town manager, after some lengthy discussions, had said, you know, will you put a price on what you'd be willing to part with the property for? I put a price on it that I thought was fair, considering what we had into it and what we will give up in passing on this property, which is what we do for a living. Chairman Quintel then negotiated that price down further, and we, I guess I would say, tentatively agreed on that's the number I can live with. Realistically, we're not living with a number lower than that. I came back with a number originally that was what I would term as my bottom line, with the best interest of Plymouth at heart, giving up what I would say is several $1 million in operating revenue to do so. And I'm not looking for a pat on the back for that. I was happy to do it, and then brought that number down even further. So I think that's our bottom line, is what we could walk away for. To me, it would make sense to put that number in, and if the appraisal doesn't work, if CPC doesn't come through, if town meeting members decide that's too much money, we don't have to proceed with that, obviously. There's a lot of factors that would have to fall into place to make that come together. But if they do, then we know what the number is.
And I just want to say that that is the number we agreed to, and I'll stand by it regardless. Mrs. Cavaco?
I think the point that people need to understand is Mr. Veo didn't have to do this.
No.
He could have just walked merrily away and built his 64 units and made millions of dollars, and we would have had to listen to all of our residents complaining once again that it's our fault that there's so much building going on. So when we were in executive session, not that I want to talk about that much, that was the ballpark of the conversation. The ballpark was somewhere around the assessed value. So I'm not sure why it could be a surprise to anyone, because I certainly wasn't surprised. But, and like I said, just so people know, Mr. Veo didn't have to do this. He did it because he does business in town. He's a resident in town. He's done a lot of projects in town. Like I said, I don't even know him. I didn't even recognize him when I saw him the first time. So I think people need to realize that this really was done to help the residents in Plymouth, so.
Well, let me start with this lady first, because her hand was up, and then Steve and the other gentleman behind Everett. Just identify yourself for the record, and there should be a green light on, ma'am. Just push on the button if it's not.
There is. Can you
Okay.
hear me? Claire Montanari, and I am a town meeting member, Precinct 4. And the thing that's been going through my mind with respect to Mr. Veo's proposal is, are there any zoning issues as well in this area? This is a density, and I may be mistaken, but I thought the area was zoned as rural residential. So if there is a zoning issue, wouldn't that have to come to town meeting as well for a zoning change? That was,
I really don't know the answer to that. Well, this is a select board. That'd really be the planning board, but Mr. Cirque's shaking his head no. I believe these were,
No.
is it right to say as a right or in the zone? Sure, please. I mean,
So just to clarify, are you asking, would it come for a rezoning for what we were proposing or for what the board? So for what we were proposing, There's a number of things that could go there. The existing building could be used as a commercial facility and house a couple of hundred people, I'm guessing, per day on multiple shifts. The building could be torn down and a residential subdivision built, 20 lots approximately, by right. Even if the planning board voted it down, it would have to be signed by the state. It would just be a by right subdivision conforming to exactly what R40 has for its zoning bylaws. That would be a no-brainer. It would also develop the entire piece of property, 25 acres all the way to the end. What we were proposing was under an RDD, which is basically like a VOSD in other zones in town, which basically condenses your development in a smaller area. You're allowed potentially greater density, but you have to leave at least 40% of the space open space. We had actually proposed 50% or slightly higher open space. So we were going beyond what the RDD had proposed. Now, ultimately, with the planning board, and a member of the planning board is here tonight, there are things to be discussed, negotiated back and forth. How's this working? How's that working? But all of what I just described is potential for the site within the normal parameters of going to the planning board for approvals. Okay. So I don't know if that answers everything.
Answered.
Thank you. Mr. Lige, and then the other gentleman behind you.
Steve Lyden, I understand what, Mr. Veo paid for the property, but you also have to understand, he is a businessman, he has a company. He knows what he put into this property, whether it's engineering, lawyer fees, all these things, they come in that cost him money. He's in business to make money. He's not the town that's looking for open space and conservation land. He's here to make money. He's agreed to make a deal with the town to save this property. If you look at Mr. Veo and everything he's done in this town, you can't ask for anybody better. He's like Red Brook, he's like Pine Hills. His reputation stands for itself. He's here, I think he's given up a lot. The potential of the money that he could make, he's given up. So the appraisal is, what's the land worth? The trees, the dirt. It's not worth what he can do and what he can make out of it. And I think that has to be considered. You just can't tell a guy, forget it, we're not going to give it to you because this is what, it has value. Everything he's done has value. His future, his plans have value. And that should go into the price of the property. I know if I sell my property, if I have a shed, I'm going to put that in there. If I have a pool, I'm going to put that in there. Those are all things that I've invested in my property and that I want back if I sell. And he's not any different than anybody else. Thank you.
I want to keep the comments on for town meeting after this. We're not here to debate the price. We're not here to debate the zoning. We're here to vote for a town meeting date. But that said, please identify yourself for the record.
Thank you. Peter Balboni, 60 Rear Sandwich Road, represented Balboni Trust also, which was late Dennis Balboni. We're the third largest landowner in Chiltonville, next to the Chiltonville Trust and the Withington's Trust. We have 50 acres next to us that is open space. Myself and my family have lived in Plymouth our whole lives, and on our 20 acres, we have one house. I have two children. We have no plans on developing, but I didn't build in the middle of the woods to be next to 64 houses. So I think the town should be very careful of what precedent they set in developing such a not remote, but such a nature preserve as in Chiltonville, because we have a lot of values there, a lot of wildlife, and there's a lot of land still there, but it doesn't always have to be there. So thank you for taking this under consideration.
Thank you. Mr. Russell, then Mr. Malaguti.
Hi, Ed Russell, Precinct 12, Town Meeting. I know you can't say now what the possible uses of this land would be, because this is all a big new thing. But in order to get this past town meeting, a very skeptical town meeting, spending money, you really better do some thinking quickly so that you have a good story, so that you have some good ideas, because other than that, I'm not sure people are going to want to spend a lot of money. There's a real feeling in town, let's not let the taxes go out, let's save money. So that's just a little bit of advice.
We have over $2 million alone in free cash. So I think we thought about that, but I don't want to speak for the finance director. And, you know, it's really simple. If town meeting doesn't want to purchase the property, that's town meeting's right. But I believe that town meeting does the right thing.
Everett Malaguti, Precinct 1. I'm just going to speak that while we are talking about money, and I'm not talking about the purchase price or anything at all, but if we want to actually talk about money and controlling costs and everything, I think this is an actual pertinent thing that we need to do, not just for the actual expenses that will incur if a development goes in, that we'll have to pay for fire, DPW, police, et cetera. But we're also looking at the actual cost that it's going to be to procure land that may be needed for a public safety building, a cemetery, other open space, whether it be recreational facilities or et cetera, that will be needed further down the line. If we're looking at controlling cost, this is going to be one of the best ways to actually control cost. As we looked at just 2 years ago during our August 2020 town meeting, when we were looking at 2 articles proposing either a renovation or rebuilding of Fire Station 1 and the location that was being balked at constantly for the Long Pond area, even though that we owned that, it was going to cost millions of dollars just to build the facility. If we look at this, we have much other potential investments for this community, not that would be burdening on the taxpayer that other developments would possibly bring. Plus, to control the cost as well, too, if we do go that route of public safety in this area, which I touted heavily for this spot during the 2020 meetings, that we also have the other 2 parcels, when we combine it, that will be back on the tax rolls potentially, which will also give the town money, not just in tax roll, but also when we sell the building. So I think this is going to be a very beneficial project for the town to go forward in purchasing this. I do not like spending money, period, as anyone can attest when I'm at town meeting, but this one I can attest to actually spending for a noble cause. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak that hasn't spoken? Oh, one second, sir, I'm sorry. Mrs. DeStasio, can you hear us?
Hi.
Hi.
Yes, I can. Thank you very much. So good evening. My name is Susan DeStasio. I'm a nearby resident on Sandwich Road. I want to say thank you first off to Mr. Quintal for really identifying this opportunity to conserve Chiltonville. And I understand, as Betty mentioned earlier, that the board is proposing the property to also be prospectively used for police and fire training. So, well, obviously, right, as a resident, the town use sounds far better initially than a large development. My only initial concern is that it seems that the Plymouth Police may not presently have a dedicated shooting range, that they presently schedule the use of the Plymouth Rod and Gun Club over by the airport for use of their range. So on the topic of preserving Chiltonville, if this property does become a location that is used for police training purposes, can you confirm that it won't be, or really if it's not decided, as it seems pretty high level and details defined at this point, that you'd support on the residents' behalf that this location would not be enabled to have an active shooting range on site?
I would be able to support that. I can't speak for the whole board, but if any of the board members want to speak to that, but I'm fine with that. Betty? Betty is? Charlie?
I think it's hard to give details right now because we keep kind of going around, and Susie, I know exactly how you feel. I certainly wouldn't want an outdoor gun range in my backyard either. But there are other options. I mean, you can have a gun range indoors. So, and I think that's what the police do at the Rod and Gun Club. So I think that, I mean, I understand what you're saying. It's not something, you know, if we were going to be doing any kind of project like that, it's going to come back to the residents
Absolutely.
again anyway. So, but I agree. I wouldn't want to see that in that area.
Excellent, I appreciate that. It would just be a very large noise concern. And I'm a member of Plymouth Rod and Gun. I've seen them schedule there and fully support that. I just, as a resident, wouldn't necessarily want to hear consistent gunfire. So thank you all for your support.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll be very brief. Richard Cirque, Precinct 2. I agree with Mr. Veo that there would be no rezoning needed. What would be needed would be special permits from the planning board.
I really don't want to get into that.
Okay.
That's not what this is about tonight.
Okay.
I'm not the planning board. He's sitting right there, and he's not in session.
When you word the article for the special town meeting, I would ask that you not use the word purchase, but use the word acquire, so that a discussion, if some people want it, about the alternative of eminent domain would not be out of order. I think that the question with respect to eminent domain is whether the
Mr. Cirque, I've answered you on the eminent domain, with all due respect.
Yep.
And that is not going to be part of this motion. I will not accept it. We have our council. I know you want to be the town council, but we, with all due respect, we have a very good council that works with us on this every day. I, as myself, have no interest in eminent domain.
Okay.
I can't speak for the others. If they want to make a motion to that, that's fine, but I'm out on that.
And I'm right there with you.
That's true. Only because of what we've been told. So this gentleman over here sat down 3 times. Would you like to come up?
I was just going to say, this is...
You need to come up to the microphone, though. Just identify yourself for the record, please.
I don't. I just want to comment, when you have general comments, and I think now after walking in, I realize this is about
This is different,
something
right,
ongoing,
okay.
so.
All right, thank you. I saw Mrs. Davis and then the gentleman in the back.
Ginny Davis, Precinct 4 Rep. This is more just a humane thing. I just resented the fact that you, as a board, made the comment that this had, Holtec had approached the town a year ago to the manager, and nothing had been done. I'm not sure that's it, but I don't think it's really right to dump on the manager that isn't here to defend herself or say what went on. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I respond to them?
No. Please.
How you doing? John O'Connor, 40 Sandwich Road. I think as this town grows, I mean, we have over 2,000 rental units going on in this town as we speak. The town infrastructure is getting strained. In about 12 to 10 years, we're going to be wishing we looked at this project and got it for the price that we're looking at it for. You know, you can look up the town records on the police department, how many times they go into these apartments that are being filled into this town of all renters. I get it, but there's, you know, they're everywhere, over 2,000 units. So I think this would be something that we should really look into. It would be an investment for the town in the future, acquiring or however the heck it's going to work. It's definitely something this town will be wishing and glad they did 10 years down the road, so.
Anyone else wishing to speak on the subject? Anyone in the queue, Chris?
No, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to hold a special town meeting on June 21st of 2022 for 46, the purchase of 46 Sandwich Street in Plymouth.
Did you want to put the price in? I mean, it's not going to change.
3.75 for the purchase price of $3.75 million.
Do I have a second?
I'll second for discussion.
Second, Mr. Helm. Discussion? Mr. Helm?
Derek, do we need to set a price tonight for this motion?
Not for tonight. I think it's very clear from this discussion that the acquisition price will be $3.7 million, $3.75 million. I can certainly write that into the article. So when this board deliberates, like they would normally do for all articles, it'll be very clear to the public what the acquisition prices will be. I hesitated in saying that earlier just because we don't have a purchase and sale in hand.
What are the consequences of not having a purchase? You've mentioned it on a couple occasions, not having a purchase and sale before we set a price. What are the consequences of that?
Well, there's a bunch of contingencies or legal contingencies, terms in the purchase and sale agreement. I'm questioning the conversation that has taken place in the past about what percentage of the land will be open space and set aside for conservation. So, not having a legal document in hand just is, pause for concern.
Do you see negative consequences if we do set a price in the language tonight that would carry into the warrant article? And am I correct in believing that on the floor of town meeting, should they determine to do so, the members, the representatives of town meeting could change that purchase price?
So I don't see any drawbacks or negative consequence from including that in your motion tonight, the purchase price. Your second question relates to town meeting. In my experience, town meeting always has the ability to amend the motion to a sum of money less than what's listed on, within the article.
But they do not have the ability to amend an article for more than the amount?
In my experience, I would say no to that. And that's just my experience. I don't know if there's a legal definition around that that would prevent such a thing, but typically the warrant is to warn the inhabitants of what's going to be voted on. And so I would defer to our moderator to answer that question, but moderators most often choose not to allow the expansion of an article, rather more of a reduction of the article.
Okay, so if we do move ahead with 3 million, whatever it was, town meeting could modify that after their deliberations if they felt they wanted to do that. Correct?
I would say to reduce the number, yes.
Okay.
And they'd also have to understand that would be a deal breaker.
Well, that's
Okay. Well, I want you just to put it out there that way.
No. I'm not putting that out there because here's the deal. We're here to vote on whether we go forward with a warrant. The town meeting members and representatives and the citizens will argue the details, and they'll make that determination. And, we've spent, an hour now going into, for lack of a better word, the weeds of the discussion of people's feelings about this. And we need to just take it back to the level we're at today, which is passing a vote to open a warrant. Okay, and in this case, we're also not just opening a warrant because there are the possibilities of citizen petitions being added to the warrant, okay? And there is also another item out there that could likely find its way, and I'll just mention that right now, a home rule petition for a hybrid town meeting. The attempt to get the state legislature to approve hybrid town meetings for the entire state is not going to happen per Representative Moratori. So one of the things that may find its way on there is the alternative, which would be for Plymouth town meeting to ask for a home rule petition for a hybrid meeting. Okay, that would be specific to Plymouth, not the entire state. So this is a vote to open a warrant. Okay, we're also going to vote on, part of opening that warrant is about 46 Sandwich Road, but there are other things that could be on that warrant, and I would just like to be clear about that.
I mean, I think putting the price on, I made the motion with the purchase price, and I think it's clear, well, hopefully it'll be clear, and if we need to attend caucuses and do all that, then I don't have any problem doing it. But we can't negotiate a purchase price on town meeting floor.
No.
So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to put the purchase price in there, because this is what it is. It's 3.7 million, and if town meeting shoots it down, Mr. Veo is going to go along his merry way and build 64 units, and that's the end of the story. There's no negotiating a purchase price with a resident, developer, whatever you want to call them, on town meeting floor. So that's the reason why I want the purchase price in there myself, so.
Mr. Flaherty?
Just two questions. Would you be open, Mr. Chairman, to doing two separate votes, one to open the warrant and then one for the price? Because, the administrative note just says to open the warrant, and if you entertain that, I'd appreciate it.
Sure.
Well, okay, all right. And additionally, I just need to remind my colleagues that we each hold the same standing on this board. We have a chair, we have a vice chair for organizational purposes. However, it's very disheartening to hear one member of the board have a negotiation and say, this is the deal. This will be the deal. I'm going to stand by it as one member of the board. When we have an executive session and discuss, because we've all now talked about what the executive session happened. In the executive session, we talked about prices, we talked about the process. We ended that executive session very specifically saying we're going to go get an appraisal. We voted to have an appraisal done. We did not vote about price. I understand for the reasons, and I don't blame Mr. Veo at all. This is his living. But what I do want to say is that this is the amount of information I had to set a price. We have, coming to me, I asked our town manager, can you send me everything that you have before this meeting? And I got an email that had the septic and a notice to our attorney that said, hey, what's going on here? Can you clue me in from April 4th? I'm being asked to endorse a price, and I have no information to go on it. And I'm a member of this board just like everyone else is. So when I hear things like someone's going to unilaterally set something and not have it be a vote of the board, and there's no changing it, I hear from Charlie it's a bad faith negotiation at this point if we change it. There's been no negotiation with the board. There's been members of the board that have negotiated things, not the board. And that's why I'm frustrated that this is the process. I think this would be a fantastic property for the town to get. But again, the process of how we got here was not the board.
Go ahead, Mr. Vail, make my night.
So just for a little clarity on that, I was asked to come in. I had a discussion with Mr. Quintal and the town manager on it. Again, I put out a price. That price was beaten down a bit over a couple of days or whenever it was. And I said I would accept that price. You are 100% correct that the board did not negotiate a price, but nor did Chairman Quintal agree to a price. We just agreed on the fact that I would accept that price. I would enter into a purchase and sale agreement on that price. I have no problem with the purchase and sale agreement being contingent upon the appraisal. I'm not saying if the appraisal came in at $1 million, I'm going to sell it for $1 million, but I will say it can be contingent on the appraisal. So if it comes in less and the board or the town says, we don't want to do it, it's valued at less than that, that's fine, everyone can walk away. But so no one from the board, either individual or certainly not the board as a whole, ever agreed to the price. I just agreed I would sell it to that, and now it's up to the board to say, do we want to agree to enter into a purchase and sale agreement contingent upon an appraisal and contingent upon the town meeting members approving it? Do we want to agree to that? That's where we stand. Just for the record, no one told me I am agreeing to this price in any way, shape, or form. But to be perfectly clear, that is the price from our side, and that's where we are, and I think I've brought it down as far as I can. So it's now up to the board, the appraisal, town meeting, to decide if they want it for that number.
Mr. Brandisi?
Chair, since we're all talking about process.
There's a motion on the floor. We won't take any more comments.
Just so we're all talking about process, and which is why I keep going back to the purchase and sale agreement. The board has to, I cannot execute the purchase and sale agreement. This board executes a purchase and sale agreement. We don't have a ready purchase and P&S in order for that discussion that Selectman Flaherty has referred to. So a lot of the discussion this evening, in my opinion, is premature because we don't have a purchase and sale agreement. The P&S is a legal binding document with contingencies, if there's contingencies that agreed upon, that we would then execute the warrant article on. So if the article reads 3.75, that is because that's what the purchase and sale agreement reads, 3.75. If town meeting decides to vote a sum of money less, they just need to understand that Mr. Veo doesn't have to accept that because he's signed a purchase and sale agreement for a sum of money that this board at some point in the future will have to sign. It's going to have 5 signatures on it or less. So I'm just trying to let folks understand the process because I feel like we're getting caught up in the process. And, you know, to the chairman's point, tonight's discussion was just to open the warrant so that we could have the discussion you're having this evening down the road. Because, again, I keep going back, we don't have an appraiser, we don't have a P&S, and it's very difficult to answer the questions that you're all bringing up this evening without those instruments in front of us. Thank you.
So, Mr. Brindisi, are you saying that we could open the warrant without any mention of the possible acquisition of 46 Sandwich Road? And we could do that prior to put the language together for that prior to the the special town meeting? And what would our time frame be for that?
So the warrant would be, so the motion would be that we open the warrant this evening for a special town meeting on June 21st, with the warrant closing, I think it's May 2nd, May 3rd, next Tuesday at close of business. From that, during that 7-day period, we, the administration, will accept all requests for articles, whether they're citizens petitions, whether they're board or committee members, whether they are departments. Selectman Helm, you have touched on a few that we may see in the draft warrant. During that period, we'll build the warrant, we'll distribute that to the board, we'll distribute that to the advisory and finance, and then deliberations take place, whether that's through the advisory finance, through COPC, and through the caucuses. But again, this board, the select board has full control over the warrant. It's your legal responsibility to decide what goes on or what comes off the warrant. And so, again, you will have that opportunity when the chairman decides we have the answers to have a full-length, informed discussion specifically on this issue here.
So are you saying that if we open the warrant tonight, we could discuss the language for 46 Sandwich Road next Tuesday?
You certainly could. I mean, it would be closing next Tuesday, close of business. So the warrant will not be prepared by Friday, which is when we have to post it. So in theory, you could have the discussion anytime 48 hours after next Tuesday. So anytime beginning on next Thursday.
And then Derek,
Mr. Bledsoe.
Mr. Brindisi, and then in the meantime, we can make that motion. Then in the meantime, we work, somebody works with Mr. Vale, putting the P&S together with the contingencies that he brought up, which I think is pretty generous, and it's actually contingent upon appraisal coming in, and also the town meeting agreeing to pay. That could be in the contingencies of the P&S.
When I spoke with counsel in Bob Better's office, he said he really didn't recommend signing a purchase and sale because if town meeting votes against it, then we'll be in default.
Okay.
So I think we need to check that out with our town council before, so a lot of things have been checked out to this point. I opened this saying to you where we were and why we're here tonight. In normal circumstances, I agree. We would have the appraisal. We would have this. We would have that. But because of the time is of the essence, we're not there. This is the way we have to do it. And at the end, on June 21st, if town meeting doesn't want it, then vote against it and accept the housing. It's really that simple. The two things that we do have is a clear title back 15 years and a clean 21E, which the town does have. So we have a motion, we have a second, we've had a lot of discussion. All those in favor?
May I ask that the motion that we're voting on be repeated to see what it contains? Does it contain a purchase price in it?
Yes, it does. The asking price, the agreed price.
Make a motion to amend to take it separately so that the purchase price is separate from opening the warrant.
I second that. I think we have to have a vote on the yes or no on the amendment.
All those in favor of the amendment?
The amendment is to
Separate.
separate.
That's right.
Correct.
Wait a minute. So we're gonna separate it to open a special town meeting, and then we're gonna make another motion for the purchase price?
Exactly.
For the more discussion or more detail around the particular article. So one would be to just open the warrant without any details. The next one would be about the article for 46 Sandwich Road. Rather than saying open the article, open the warrant, and the language, and one of the articles will be $3,700,000 for 46. It's separating it.
But it's the
And
same
what's the
thing.
purpose of separating it? If you don't mind me asking.
Because I want to vote yes on the meeting and no on the
I'm
thing.
talking to Mr.
Yeah,
Helmut.
well,
Thank
I'm
you.
kind of where Patrick is on this. I think, my personal opinion is, we'll have, if we open the warrant, my personal opinion is, we need to talk about, and, and have our ducks in a row to create an article that is logical and not overly quickly. We still have to work quickly, and it may take an executive meeting before, early on Tuesday, okay, so that we can make the end of the day deadline. But I do think that one of the members has brought up some questions, And I think we, as a board, should work to answer them so that we all are on the same page and the residents can trust that we all discussed this and we agreed. That, you know, and I understand what Mr. Veo is saying. I'm in real estate, so I know exactly what he's saying. But I think that for moving something forward like this, which the board does agree on purchasing this land. None of us disagree about that. We're all on board with that, okay? But I do
I
think-
only support it at the price proposed in the First Amendment, just so you know.
Oh,
I'm out.
okay.
So why don't we make this easy? Easier.
I'm all for easy.
I will withdraw my motion. You withdraw your second?
I'll withdraw my second.
Then I want to make a motion to open a special town meeting. And then the next motion I will make after that, and we can take the vote separately, to put the article forward for 46 Sandwich Street at $3.75 million. How's that?
That's fine.
I'll second the first motion to open the warrant for a special town meeting to be held on June 21st.
6 PM.
6 PM.
6 PM?
Yeah.
6 PM on June 21st.
Have a second?
Second.
Second, discussion? All those in favor? Warrant's open.
Okay, now I would like to make a motion for the purchase price of $3.75 million for 46 Sandwich Street, Plymouth.
Road.
Do I have a second?
A second.
Second by Mr. Blitzer. Discussion? Go ahead, Mr. Helms.
I just want to make it clear in this that my reasons for how I will vote on this have nothing to do with the eventual purchase price that is being suggested. I understand the bottom line for Mr. Veo. Okay, I understand that. He's a smart businessman, he's done his calculations, and, you know, and he is doing a good deed for the town of Plymouth. He really is. But I do feel that we as a group should talk about it and, you know, the purchase price, and have a vote on it. And I do believe that could be done, Derek, correct me if I'm wrong, in executive session.
That is correct.
So, I mean, I'm amenable to showing up Tuesday morning at 8 o'clock in Town Hall for an executive session. I mean, I just think that we as a board need to sit down and be on the same page with the purchase price. And I don't sense that we are right now. You know, even if it's just one member, as a board, we have one member who has questions. You know, do I believe that the one member will agree in that executive session for the purchase price as Mr. Veo wants? I think that will be the case. But we do need to, you know, take into account that we are a board with, you know, with a number of members, and, you know, I mean, it's just, it's important that we follow this process so that all, when we go forward with the actual warrant, that it's all the board members who are on board with it. And that's why I feel that way. Not necessarily that the price request that the seller has made to us is something out of line, or that, you know, that we shouldn't understand that basically that's what he wants, and also understand that if that's what we put forward, town meeting has every ability to modify that, okay? I just would like the board to be unified in the warrant article that we put forward. That's my opinion.
But you can't guarantee that.
Can't guarantee, no, I can't guarantee that, and then we won't be unified. But this gives us the opportunity to be unified. That's all I'm asking. I mean, we don't need to do this particular thing tonight. We need to do it by close of business day Tuesday. And this is what we're here for. And sometimes we need to call a special session for ourselves, and sit down and hash it out. No, I can't guarantee anything. I mean, I can't even guarantee that I'll be alive next Tuesday morning. Nobody can.
God
But-
forbid.
Some people might have a different opinion at this point.
I think that would be me.
But, yeah, well, that might be you. But I'm sorry, that's just how I feel about process. That's how I feel.
Mr. Blitzer?
Harry, what more information do we need? We have these executive sessions and we get accused of not being transparent.
There you
Now
go.
in an open meeting, we're in an open meeting and we're discussing this. And what more information do you need besides an appraisal, which you're not going to have in a week?
Right.
We know the assessed price, you're a realtor, is 3.5 million. You know as well as I do that it's going to come in well over 3.75 million. I mean, knowing what I know about real estate. So, but we're an open, any questions that Patrick has, he can ask right now in an open meeting. I think, I don't know what other information. Patrick, what more information do you need? It's a question. I don't know what else you need.
Through the chair, this is what I had coming in today. That's why I am
It's the same that
adamant
I
that.
had, Patrick. Same thing I had. We talked about it. What do you have? About the assessment.
No, and I'm not saying that anyone should accept that, so we had great points by Everett tonight. I've heard for the first time from Mr. Veo about this tonight, and that this is the floor. Came in today, I tried before the meeting on Friday, minutes after this came out, to get more information about what was gonna happen tonight. Would there be a vote? Was there a price? Or what was gonna be asked of tonight? And I didn't know what was gonna happen tonight. And so,
Did you know the bottom, what he said, it was a lot more than what we settled for. And we talked about 3.5. I mean, I don't want to get into what we said, but it's not like it's the first you're hearing about this.
no, and respectfully, Charlie, we're going to town meeting. Town meeting has to approve it. I know that there's negotiations. I haven't had an opportunity to have negotiations, nor would I have, but I don't want to go on and belabor this anymore, besides the fact that town meeting has to approve it. Now that we've really beat this thing, I'll say that I think town meeting, it'd be very, very, very hard to say no to the assessed value, which is a little bit less. I think there might be a risk that this doesn't get approved if this goes for that much higher than the assessed value. So that's why I think there's a risk, and there's not an opportunity because there's a self-imposed deadline so quick to not have the information. That's where I'm coming up short on this one.
No, but Rick already said if the appraisal comes in low, okay, he can renegotiate. But we know it's not gonna. And I'm just saying to you that articles, I've never seen an article go to town meeting with a number on it. And all of a sudden they negotiate the price, knock the price. I think it should go to town meeting with the number on it. And they either vote to fund it or not fund it. And as Dickie said, if they don't fund it, and then it becomes, and it goes right back to Rick, and he does his residential thing, which none of the neighbors want. I know that for a fact. So we want this land. Mr. Vail negotiated with us, and now all of a sudden tonight, it's like I wouldn't be surprised if Rick walked away from this after this meeting, how confused this was tonight. So I don't get what's going on here. So I'm ready to vote for both of those motions, and hopefully we get it through town meeting, because we're doing a great service to Plymouth.
This is on the
quite
amount,
honestly.
right? 3 point, this is on the amount, right?
Yes.
Yeah, this one's on the amount. We already opened the warrant, Mr. Blutzer.
Okay.
All those in favor? 3 in favor, 2 in opposition. Motion carries. Town managers report. Right after the town manager's report, we have public comment, you can speak, sure. Just give us 1 second.
Okay, so I just have a few announcements for this evening. As the chairman reported in the opening of tonight's meeting, Mr. Brad Brothers is our new assistant town manager. Brad was formerly the business agent for the school district and brings over a decade experience working in municipal government, so specifically in municipal finance. So happy to have Brad, and so you'll be seeing Brad moving forward, working on a lot of different projects, along with assisting the board with some of the things that they need. Moving on, I have talked a lot about my desire to do a better job communicating with the public on all the things that are happening here with all of our various departments. So, I always say to folks that there's a story to tell, and our departments do great work. So, I'm putting together a communications plan. And start of that communication plan, I'm working with PAC TV on something, a show that we're going to air we're going to record every Monday. It probably aired on Tuesdays, called This Week in Plymouth. And so this is going to be, one of first of many iterations of the program, but more importantly, of a community-wide communications program where, myself and other department heads and hopefully board members will join me to talk about, again, all the great things that are happening. So the program is called This Week in Plymouth, and we'll talk about each week the day-to-day business of the town. I want to bring to folks' attention that Congressman Markey is going to be here in Town Hall on May 6th. We're going to be posting this information on the town's website so folks are aware of what's going on. He's going to be holding a U.S. Senate field hearing. This is the Committee on Environment and Public Works Subcommittee, focused on clean air, climate, and nuclear safety. So this is going to be held at 10 a.m. It's going to be in the courtroom primarily. That's where the committee members will be held. There'll be an overflow section here as well in this room for individuals who'd like to attend. His focus is going to be focusing on the decommissioning process for nuclear plants such as Pilgrim. Topics to be covered will be the nuclear safety and security issues and state and local community stakeholder engagement. So again, we're going to post all this information on the website. They are asking folks to RSVP. There's an Eventbrite link that folks can sign up and get on the waiting list to attend this meeting. So a few more updates. So as we move towards a June 21st special town meeting, I have been working with our moderator on what that's going to look like. Is that going to be in person? Again, these are questions that have come up. Is that going to be virtual? But I can tell you that our moderator is going to be meeting with the Board of Health in the next couple of weeks to have that conversation of what is a safe town meeting to have. I can tell you, though, a report I received this morning suggests that our COVID cases are declining. And as I've reported in the past, we are now sampling the wastewater to determine whether or not we see an increase in the number of viruses, the viral load in the wastewater. And I can tell you, though, we had an increase earlier this month, but we're starting to see a decrease in the viral load in the wastewater sampling. So things are pointing in the right direction as far as the number of COVID cases here in the community. I just want to mention that our Department of Environmental Management did a great job this past week over at Bartlett Pond and Bartlett Brook. They pulled out some really large items out of the pond and the brook, picnic tables and chairs and things of that nature. So I'm happy to report that they did a great job in trying to clean up that area. Unfortunately, what I'm not happy to report is that we received a demolition application for the smokestack over at Cottage Park. Right now, the building commissioner has reported to me that that smokestack is currently scheduled to be torn down in the week of May 9th. We are asking the property owner to give us a 24-hour notice before the actual demolition takes place. So again, we'll continue to keep the board abreast of what's going on there. Kudos to the select board and their priority this past winter to really focus on our employees. And so thankful to the town meeting to support those collective bargaining agreements and the change in the personnel bylaw that provided pay equity across all of our different departments. Because of that effort, the Human Resources Department reported to me today that they are seeing a higher number of applicants than they've ever seen in the past 5 years. They attribute the increased applicant pool because of the work that the board had led with our collective bargaining union. So again, more to come out of that, but we're seeing some early fruits of that labor. And then the emergency paid sick leave. Happy to report that we've received $300,000 worth of reimbursement from the state through that program, which is now ended. I think I talked about it on March 15th, but it's always good to report when we receive those dollars. The public restrooms, thank you to Mr. Layden, with the chairman from VSB, who worked with the VSB board to provide an additional $10,000 to the town to open up our public restrooms. The restrooms right outside here at Town Hall started opening this past weekend, April 21st. So that's going to continue through April, through May, and then all up until Thanksgiving time period. So the opening of those days will be on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So again, thank you to Mr. Layden for his efforts on spearheading that effort. And then last, I'd like to report that Public Works Day will be Friday, May 20th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Over at Camelot Drive at the DPW facility. And we'll continue to talk more about that. We'll post that far and wide on our social media platforms so families can enjoy it. Pending any questions, that's all I have for this evening.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Brandisi? Comments? Seeing none. That's good to hear with the workforce. Have we filled any positions? I know we had 50-some odd vacancies.
We filled a number of positions. Most recently, we offered a position to a couple craftsmen, so we've had vacancies there for a while. We did some great interviews today for a position that's been vacant for 2 years. They said there was a great applicant that they interviewed today. Again, this is a position that was vacant for 2 years, so we're really excited about some of the applications that we're starting to see.
So it's working.
It's absolutely working, yes.
Thank you. Okay, public comment. Ma'am, you've had your hand up. Yes.
Claire Montanari, Precinct 4, Chair of 4. We've been referring to this property as 46 Sandwich Street. That's incorrect. 46 Sandwich Road. 46 Sandwich Street is almost downtown. Okay, what did I do? Can you hear me now? Okay. Claire Montanari, Precinct 4, Chair. We've been referring to this property as 46 Sandwich Street, and that's not correct. It's 46 Sandwich Road. I don't know whether or not we have to go back and change our motions, because our motions were made for street. Don't want to get into any trouble. I don't want you folks to get into any trouble. Sandwich Street does exist. It goes from Water Street up to Bramhall's Corner. At Bramhall's Corner, we split. River Street goes to the left, Sandwich Road goes to the right. And there's a distinction. A lot of people don't know that, but I know it's been interchanged, and it shouldn't be. So just want to bring that to your attention.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Skavako?
I just wanted to say that it was changed on the agenda, and I don't believe my motion said street. Did it? Okay. Then if it did, it was road.
Right after Ginny, I'll let you speak, all right?
Ginny Davis, Precinct 4. Can you hear me? I think what I just wanted to refer to, this is something that came up before, but I think what Mr. Flaherty was referring to, Mr. Bledsoe, was process. The same type of issues came up with the horse track. You know, people were sitting there and they had not been presented and had a chance to go over a lot of the information, and then you were supposed to vote on it. You know, you had empty folders. So it's called the process. You know, everybody should be in on it. If you're on a committee, you get to read all the information. You may even get to talk about it before you have to come in public. That's not easy to do if you haven't gone over it. So that's what I think it's about, Mr. Bledsoe. It's called process. Thank you.
Steve Lyden, since we're giving out kudos tonight, I'd like to give kudos to our new town manager, because without him, without his work and his help, those bathrooms wouldn't be open. And it's something that's been wanting by the business and the chamber and Sea Plymouth for a long time. So Derek, thank you very much for all your help and assistance to get that done. Thank you.
The gentleman there's had a lot of patience.
I'm used to it. Steve Bjorklund, 861 Main Street, Norwell, Massachusetts. As you know, I came in front of you a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if it was your last meeting or not, and we discussed some issues as far as Conservation Commission rules and regulations. And I finished my review of what had been done before. There were a tremendous amount of changes that I came up with, and I will say that I gave them to the chair of the board last Friday. He actually went through them. They are this evening going through a lot of that stuff. I had to step into this meeting, but I believe they passed the new rules and regulations tonight. I think that was their goal. And I brought up two issues, and that's all I want to talk about right now. I haven't had time to review their entire finished document. I didn't get that chance. I think they just passed it and said, we'll deal with it later. This is what we're going to have for rules and regulations. So I just want to let you know that the selectmen got kind of involved in this because they have a section called Special Flood Hazard Regulations, and it revolved around Title V septic systems. Right. And what they had proposed was a section that says, to ensure protection of all other interests in the bylaw, no new septic systems and no enlarged septic systems in footprint shall be allowed in velocity zones, VE zones, floodways where there's actively shifting sand, barrier beaches, and dunes. We've gone back and forth since 2021. The commission had taken a vote to take out footprint and say that you couldn't enlarge the system based on the flow that was going into the system. So if somebody had a 3-bedroom home, you could repair that system under Title V, and you were allowed to do that basically as a matter of right in what the regulation was written. In December, that got changed back again, and they had the words in footprint in there again, which again, I believe is absolutely wrong, because I think it's going to prevent Title V systems without a special permission from the Conservation Commission. So in fighting that again, the board decided that they would take out the words in footprint in that particular regulation. So right now it says, and no enlarged septic systems shall be allowed. I asked them tonight what the definition of enlarged was. They don't know. So it can be footprint, it can be flow, it can be whatever they want it to be. So it's wrong to have that regulation in, and if the commission's watching, I apologize, but I am really adamant about this. This is not good for the citizens that are on the beach with existing homes, and it's overburdensome for them to be asking for special permission to put a new Title V septic system in. And I think that the Board of Selectmen should somehow try and get this corrected. The second issue has to do, again, with people on the beach, and it refers to performance standards for a dune. And it now basically says that you cannot disturb any vegetative cover on a dune. So anybody that's out there on the dune, if they have grass out there, again, they have to ask to change one blade of grass to put a Title V septic system in. But the commission can give them a waiver if they choose to do so. Well, that's not a position to put the citizens in Plymouth into. They should absolutely be allowed to put Title V septic systems in, whether they live on the beach or whether they live in the middle of town. It should not be a special permission thing. And again, most of the changes that I had come up with, I applaud the commission. They made a ton of those changes, but these were two critical items that we've been working on for a year, and I think some of you know the amount of time I've spent going through this. I know the commission does, and I'm not doing this to be against the commission. I'm doing it so that the citizens are treated properly in the town. And the response that I got was, we're going to go with this, and we'll look at changing it again in the future. I just think that that's wrong, and I think the selectmen should know that. That's all. Thank you.
Would you be as kind as to send that on to Chris Beddoe when you have a chance, those two
Sure.
articles they're concerned with, so
Okay.
we can take a look? Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on a public comment?
We have Mr. Zuccarelli up on the monitor.
Okay. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Robert Zuccarelli. I'm a resident of Precinct 1. And as many of you know, I'm also a member of the Advisory and Finance Committee. But I want to be clear, tonight I'm addressing you as a resident of the town, not as a member of Advisory and Finance. For several weeks, the residents of Plymouth and the Select Board have been engaged in a conversation regarding the development of the county woodlot. We have sat through hours of conversations, listening to the back and forth between the board, a third party, and the residents. This conversation began when a would-be tailor promised a would-be emperor a new set of clothes. This in the form of new revenue, growth, development, and opportunity. The tailor, Boston South and its agents, the emperor, the town of Plymouth. And we all know how that story ends. The emperor parades naked through the town. The tailor makes off with the emperor's treasure. The Pied Piper promises made that night opened a Pandora's box of issues that are continuing to spread. In these stories, the piper was paid with the town's legacy, and their future was lost. A box was opened, unleashing unforeseen problems onto a community, all in an attempt to provide a quick fix to a long-standing problem. We tell cautionary tales, and I reference them here because they teach important lessons. The lessons of the Brothers Grimm, Hans Christian Andersen, and classical mythology are not lost on the Woodlot project. The development of the woodlot into a gaming, sports, racetrack, entertainment facility in the way that Boston South proposes to deliver are empty promises and fantasies that will leave Plymouth and the residents wanting and bring greater problems into the town. The neighborhood near the woodlot is zoned residential. There is a school in the area. The town does not have the infrastructure or amenities to support this project. Currently, public health and safety services would struggle to address the issues this endeavor could create. Plymouth simply cannot handle this. The board has been addressed several times and been asked to take action in the form of a motion and vote not to support this type of development. While the community has been placated with words, words are empty when there is not concrete action to give them form and substance. The picture that Boston South paints is a lovely image of a castle in the sky, but this is only a picture. There is no foundation to support the structure. So tonight, I add my voice to the others who have spoken and written on this. The cautionary tales written for children apply here. I have taught them for years. They have merits for adults as well. Having said this, I join my fellow Plymouthians and ask this board to put words into action and give them body. I am asking tonight that a motion be made and a vote taken definitively stating you will not support a gaming, racing, sports, entertainment complex on the lots in and around the woodlot. Do not allow yourselves or Plymouth to get caught as the Emperor did, or as the town of Hamlin did. Do not unleash a Pandora's box onto Plymouth. Send a clear message to Boston South ahead of zoning, any zoning and bylaw changes that may be acquired, or ahead of a drawn-out debate at town meeting. Do not allow, please do not allow this piper to play in Plymouth. Make a definitive motion with a concrete vote, proving to the residents that your words are more than a tailor's empty promise. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on the public comment? Moving on to licenses and administrative notes. Mayflower Brewing Company, 12 Resnick Road, is requesting one-day wine and malt licenses from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the Hedge House for the following dates in 2022: 5/27, 5/28, 6/3, 6/4, 6/10, 6/11, 6/17, 18, 6/24, 25, 7/1, 7/2, 7/8, 7/9, 7/15, 7/16, 7/22, 7/23, 7/29, 7/30, 8/5, 8.
We don't have that.
Yeah, I know you don't. It's in your other packet. 8/6, 8/12, 8/13, 8/19, 8/20, 8/26, 8/27, 9/2, and 9/3. Yeah, it's in this, the regular packet, not on that one. Awaiting a motion.
So moved.
Second by Mrs. Cavaco. Discussion? All those in favor? Okay, while you're all here, I'm going to move down to Mayflower Brewing under amplified music. It's at the Hedge House also. The dates are exactly the same as I just read, from 3 to 8 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. Now we're going to go back to the area chamber. Is requesting a one-day wine and malt license for 5/7 from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. at Nelson Park.
Motion?
Second.
Second by Mr. Helm. Discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Wildlands Trust, one-day wine and malt license for 5/1/22 from 12 to 4 p.m.
Motion?
Second.
Second by Mr. Helm. Discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Plymouth Center for the Arts, a one-day wine and malt license for 5/1/22 from 3 to 6 p.m.
Motion?
Second.
Second, Mr. Flaherty. Discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Plymouth Pawtucket Museum, one-day all alcohol license for 5:30 PM to 8:30 PM.
Motion.
Second?
Discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Plymouth Pawtucket Museum, one-day all alcohol license for 6/11/22 from 5 to 8:30 PM.
Motion.
Second?
Second by Mr. Flaherty. Discussion? All those in favor? Okay, and we did Mayflower for the amplified music. Amplified music, Plymouth Area Chamber, amplified music permit for 5/7/22 from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Motion.
Second?
Second by Mr. Flaherty. Discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Plymouth Philharmonic, amplified music permit, July 4th, 22, from 7:30 p.m. to 9:15 p.m.
Motion.
Second?
Second, Mr. Flaherty. Discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. C, Plymouth is requesting an outdoor amplified music permit from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m., starting on May 6th and continuing every Friday through September 30th, to be held on the porch at 4 North. The first Friday of each month, 5/6 through 10/7, is for the first Friday events. All other Fridays will just be music for C, Plymouth.
Motion.
Second?
Second by Mr. Flaherty. Discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Change of manager, liquor, Cold Spring Athletic Club, change from Charles Gibbons to Steve Finnegan.
Motion.
Second?
Discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Change of offices, Cold Spring Athletic Club. The list of the offices is, should be in your packets. There's a list with our packets, proposed offices.
Motion.
Second?
Second by Mr. Flaherty. Discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Did you want to look at this, Betty? Did you find it? Okay. Administrative notes.
I'd like to motion to move the administrative notes as a group, a note 1 through 7.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Committee liaison designee update. Mr. Flaherty?
Just wanted to share that the Climate Action Net Zero Committee had its first meeting, and it's getting going on the process to start that long process of drafting that report, working alongside groups like Energy Committee and some of the town staff. So thank you to those committee members who volunteered for that, and look forward to their work.
Anyone else? Mrs. Cavaco?
Just to let people know that the handicap access mat is going to be down tomorrow at the White Horse Beach entrance.
Mr. Helm? No, not Harry, okay. Old business, always a favorite. Mrs. Cavaco?
So, as I think the board knows, that we've received quite a few complaints about our excise tax demands. I promised a few people that I would bring that up this evening, because I understand that there were 12,000 demands sent out this year, but these people, there can't be 12,000 people lying and saying that they didn't get their first bill. So I understand that our demands are governed by the state, but I believe that the town has to do something, to offset those demands, because you know, some of these are seniors, and it's, you know, $15 or $25 or whatever the demand is, but it happens every single time we send out a bill. So I know Brad had sent us in some information today, but I think at this point, we have to do something to help the residents, whether we try to get the fee waived or whatever it is that we have to do, because we have to figure out something moving forward, because every time we send out a bill, it's the same thing. So I don't know where the disconnect is. I don't know if it's the post. You know, they've been told it's the post office. It's not the post office. I mean, it's just hard to decipher, and I think there's something that we have to do.
Yeah, I'm happy to respond to that. So to your point, there was, well, let me start by saying there was 60,000 excise bills that were sent out. Of the 60,000, 12,000 demands were then sent out. Of the 12,000 demands, you're right, we have probably received somewhere around 12 to 15 residents who've called to state to us that they've never received those, the original notice. And so as, you know, Brad in his first week here has been working with the Treasurer Collector's Office to try to unpack all that and to try to determine where the source of the problem is. Some of them could simply that they didn't receive it through the post office. Maybe some of them misplaced it. But, you know, to your point, I think there's something, and, you know, Mr. Brothers had even made a recommendation today that maybe, you know, we meet with them individually, these residents, give them the opportunity to waive that one-time fee. And he has some suggestions of, there's a notice on the town website that actually describes when these bills go out. So to give them that information so that next year, if this were to happen, they already know when these bills are going to go out. And it's going to be incumbent upon them to kind of keep an eye on that, as you would any other bill that you receive for your personal expenses.
Okay. I'm not so sure that someone is gonna wanna take some time off from whatever they're doing to come in and fight a $15 demand fee, but it puts a bad taste in their mouth, and it really kinda is a black mark on the town, so I don't want residents thinking that we're, you know, this is our way to make a little extra revenue, because trust me, it's out there, you know, and I know that's not the case, but still.
We have the right to dismiss the fee. We just can't, or don't we? I know this happened years ago, and we could, I don't know if it was the interest we could, or the fee we could, but we can do something like that, because if that's the case, and we see it extreme high number, as opposed to other years, I'm very much interested. This very jacket I went to get this weekend, the lady said, "Oh, what's this for?" I said, "Well, I'm a selectman." She said, "Oh, what town?" I said, "Oh, no, where do you live?" She said, "Plymouth." I said, "That'd be me." And she said about her excise tax. And she went as far to write her name down, and I turned it over to you, and I believe the lady. She says, "I've never been late," and so I took her number, and, you know, I gave it to Derek. But I mean, you know, and I got another letter here from Mr. Curley, and I did respond. I said, you know, well, I'll send it to the town manager. But I do think that something's not right. I mean, I was a selectman before for years, and I never seen this happen like this. So if there is something we can do and make a motion to take the demand or whatever I don't know what the right word is, the interest off or the late fee, then I would very much like to hear about that.
Yeah, so that's something we did talk about again.
Okay.
Brad had mentioned using this as a potential solution until we can figure out the source of the problem. But we have to, what we're doing right now is looking at the statute. So sometimes some fees, some fines, we aren't allowed to waive.
Right.
And so we don't know that answer just yet. So
Exactly.
certainly, you know, we can take the board's direction, and if that's what you want us to do, if we're able to do that, we'll certainly move in that direction.
Okay, well, if you could check it out and report back to us, or let us know if we have options.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Anything else on the old business?
I'm going to bring up I'm going to bring this up under old business because I have brought it up before. One of the things that I know the board and the town in general is always talking about how can we get people out to vote. And I think it's time that this board really takes consideration and maybe put it as an agenda item to have discussions about actually changing our election days to November, when the state makes their, does their votes. I know it's something new, but what else do we do? I mean, they keep looking to us like, how do we get more people engaged? I mean, I know that a Saturday on a nice sunny May day, I mean, people that only have weekends off, they have kids, they're at sports, they're at this, they're at that. So, state elections are very, well-known. They're advertised well. I'm not saying that we aren't, but we kind of aren't. So I think it's time that we have a discussion about the possibility of moving elections to November.
Want Mr. Brandeis to check into that?
Please.
Okay.
Yeah, no, we're happy to take a look at that. A lot of municipalities don't hold their elections on weekends, they actually hold it during the workday. So, I'm sure there was an informed decision that was made years ago to have it on Saturdays. But yeah, we're certainly looking to relocating the election day.
Okay. Anything under letters? I only had the one. New business? Sure, come on up.
I was encouraged to speak to you tonight by Donna Curtin. I'm Richie Garrison. I'm Professor Emeritus of History from the University of Delaware, and my wife and I own a house here in Plymouth on the shores of Jenny Pond. I've got three short issues that I wanted to brief you on this evening. One is I'm the chair of the steering committee for the Vernacular Architecture Forum, which has scheduled a major academic conference to meet here in Plymouth in 2023, in May of 2023. And as part of that conference, we always undertake tours of some of the historic architecture and properties in the communities that we visit. This year it's San Antonio, next year it's Plymouth. And one of the things we want to do next year is to visit this town hall, formerly the courthouse of 1820, and it's gone through various iterations. Because you are the board, I understand I need your permission to open the historic courtroom to visits from our attendees, which would number in the vicinity of 200, on May 19th of 2023. And that's my request of you, to get permission from you to open parts of the building so that people can tour it. And the second is the simple logistics. Do I work with the town manager? Do I work with somebody else within the town hall in order to make that happen, pending your approval, of course? That's it.
Well, I just had 10 Girl Scouts, so, I'd be happy to bring you through.
That would be great. The way the tour is set up is a little more complicated than that, and you all should know that this is going to include some of the major architectural historians from the entire country, as well as people from the National Park Service, people in the fields of historic preservation. We're already working closely with Ann Mason and Donna Curtin and people from the Mayflower Society, and we've been planning this really for 3 years. 2 of them postponed because of the pandemic. I guess I should work.
Yeah, our town manager, he'll be
with
more
the
than
town
happy to help
manager?
you.
Yes, thank you for that. Do I have your approval to pursue this with town manager?
Sure.
All right, thank you.
This is your building. You're a taxpayer.
Yes, indeed. Thank you.
Yep. New business?
I'll be in touch.
New business? I see Mr. Cohan out there, and this would be Bill, if you could just touch a little bit on the conversation we had on Sandwich Road with the CPC and what the process would be for that a little bit. I suppose I should have asked you before, but I didn't see you, so I do apologize.
No need. Bill Cohan with the Community Preservation Committee. I think you covered it. As the system that we have in place is an application process. You've served on the Community Preservation Committee. Betty served on the Community Preservation Committee. The application process is available for everyone. Everybody has the opportunity to apply for those funds. We will do our due diligence. We've begun the appraisal process. The committee will start to compile this information. They'll make a decision what to recommend on to town meeting, and eventually town meeting makes the decision. But we have an application process that we'd like to keep as open so that anyone can apply. Whether it's the town or the average citizen, the funds are available and everybody gets treated equally.
Okay, no, it's so fast. Because I was going to bring up I'm good with that, but I just wanted people to hear that.
Okay.
I just wanted to ask you about historical, because I know you know quite a bit about it, and all that's going on in the size of the town. We have all different, we have the 1749 courthouse, the historical commission, it goes on and on.
Yes, I think that I have, I'm kind of like the guy that slept at the Best Westin who thinks he's a historian. I've only served on I've only served on the Community Preservation Committee, and in that capacity over 20 years, I have encountered the different efforts the town does when it comes to preservation. And I've often mentioned this, that in those 20 years that we've had the Community Preservation Act in Plymouth, it has come to my attention that it is, at a certain point, we should start thinking about creating a Department of Preservation for the town of Plymouth. Plymouth has been here for 400 years. We have just celebrated our 400-year celebration. You've had your Community Preservation Act around for 20 years now. In that capacity, I've noticed all these different departments working on preservation efforts, going after preservation grants. The town has an archivist and archives that are quite extensive. We have the 1749 courthouse, which is owned by the town of Plymouth. You have all of these amenities as a community and as a town, and we should start exploring that. Right now, the Charter Commission is looking at their new form of government, what the charter might look like. So I know that I've brought it up at different times that we should start exploring that. So someday in the future, this could be how we administer not only the Community Preservation Act, but other preservation efforts of the town in coordinating those historical resources that the town has. So, I've brought this conversation up with previous town managers, and I'm discussing with the current town manager, and I hope to, over the next several months, come up with some sort of idea that would embrace this concept.
Yeah, I'm very interested in doing that, because you just look around town, Water Street, for example, the old Shiretown Ford building, formerly Brewers Marine, and now it's, what is it, Safe Harbors?
Correct, yeah.
That new company that bought it, and the facade to that building, and I know the neighborhood's been meeting regularly, trying to save that, and they reached out to you, and you're all working together on it, and I hear there's good things coming out of that.
Yeah.
But we have, with this preservation, look over our historical actual, like say, just for instance, the Stack, that building there, or any other buildings in town, or properties, do we have any kind of list or anything like that?
Yes, the Historical Commission, Mass Historical, has identified buildings and architecture and different amenities here in town. There's a number of historical entities, from the Antiquarian Society to Pilgrim Hall to Mayflower Society, there's numerous museums that has archives and resources and information. And that's why a Department of Preservation by the town of Plymouth could not only coordinate what we have internally as a town, because we do have significant amount of historical documents, but also working with the other historical entities in the community. So, yes, we're having good conversations with, on the Bradford Street Area Commission in terms of what might happen on Water Street and Union Street. And we are working with the cottage to come up with a solution to what is scheduled for May 9th.
Okay, so if you could maybe stop by again
Yep.
in a month or so with some recommendations. We'll talk about it as a board and maybe move forward from there. So, you know, schedule a docket item. I know we have a resident here in the audience that's very good with architectural
Yeah, those are
history.
those are the
So
real
we can put
historians.
him- we can put right on
They're
there.
the
We
real
can reach out to him.
historians. Very good,
So,
thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Anything else under new business? No, I just have one more suggestion for the board and the town manager. The 1,500 acres that Holtec currently owns, at least as of today, I'd like to put together an internal group, or get your thoughts on that. And I say eternal because I think if we make a group or a committee out there, then it's public documents, and then the tiger sees the bait. So I'd like to get your thoughts on that, Derek, maybe put something together under your supervision. And it would be the job of this group, the internal working group, on the 1,500 acres to see what's valuable, what's buildable, makes good trails, what the possibilities could be. So when the time comes for whoever's negotiating, you're ready to go. We're not gonna, whoever it is, not gonna say, okay, let's start negotiating now and try to figure out the 1,500 acres. Let's be proactive when we see how they behave and start putting together that group. But I think it's better that you head that group and put that group together and lay out, we can talk about it some more, but I think it's something that'll be ready to go, push button, so when they're ready, we're gonna be ready.
Mr. Chairman, I think that's a great idea. While you're talking, I'm just thinking of representation and, certainly somebody from economic development, someone from planning, someone to represent the open space needs
Right,
down there
open
as well.
space,
So,
conservation, sure.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, and I think to your point, we should have a strategy in place for when that opportunity becomes available.
Because all of us sitting here, we know it's 1,500 acres, but we don't know what's good for what. and,
Right.
Maybe it all goes in conservation. Who knows?
Right.
We'll see.
Let's hope we have the opportunity.
Well, yes, exactly. But you know what? It's better to be ready, or at least half ready than not ready. So.
Right.
See what just happened with Chilton though, right?
Well, that's what I meant. Yeah, let's start doing it now before the town still has a few years, I hope. So, anything else on the new business? Seeing none, motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Okay, thank you for watching. Have a good evening. We'll see you next week. Thank you. Keep Ukraine in your thoughts and prayers, as well as the rest of the world.